and help.
Oh, sure.
Good evening and welcome to the Municipality Monroeville's second budget hearing for November 8th. The time is approximately 6:45. We're going to start actually with we'll start with our Pledge of Allegiance first. If we'd all please rise, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. We're going to open up our budget hearing with public comment. If anyone would like to address council on budget items only, now would be your time to do it. You will have other opportunities later in the meeting and also at other meetings. But if there's anything specifically right now, any budget questions, now would be your time to address council. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. We're going to move over to our department head presentations. We're going to start with the tax office. We have Pat Fulkerson, our tax collector, and Liz Sommer, please.
Is this mic working?
It is.
Joe, is that middle microphone on?
Because I'll let Liz in here.
Go on.
All right, thank you. All right,
What page?
it
Oops.
is page 25 for revenue. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to say thanks to a lot of people. And the first one for voting no on Tuesday in our favor. First is God. You know how much he loves tax collectors. It's all spoken out there. Second, I'd like to thank my wife who's always with me. Third, I'd like to thank council, especially Tom, Greg, and Steve, and because they spoke up at that last meeting, and to everybody. I know that in your heart you work for me, or whatever. So that's the other one I wanted to say. And I'd like to thank my staff for a wonderful year. It's another $1 million plus year for us. And I would like to thank Doug, Liz, Kathleen, and Carol for doing a super job. And
Great job out there.
and fortunately, we had a great, I don't know how Tim Little does this, but we had a great summer help. Juliette LeMayo, who was fantastic. And she did a super job for us. And Liz could tell you that she was just super. The tax department had a very productive year, in which you'll see as we present our budget. It was a $1 million plus year, and I would like to ask council to consider a bonus for Liz and for Doug in the amount of $1,000 apiece. If that, take that under consideration, and I would appreciate that. Now Liz will present our budget.
Yay. So as Pat mentioned, our another year of success, especially with the business privilege tax as well as the local services tax. Some highlights, I think by the end of the year, we're over budget by $1 million, almost $1.3 million, and depending on how collections go for November and December, that could possibly be $1.5 million over what was anticipated. When we figured out the budget for next year, we bumped that up to account for some of this money that we may have started to pursue 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and it's starting to come in now because we have no guarantee. Self-assessing tax and with litigation and some things, some people aren't as forthcoming as others to get their tax situation resolved. But it has been a good year. We also have been identifying money that has been paid to another tax collector that really belongs to us. So as we do that, there was over $50,000 that we collected this year that was paid by mistake to Keystone. And we identified it and we resolved that matter, and that's now in our bank accounts, and it wasn't before. So those are some highlights. We continue to prove our worth. I think we're the, probably the least liked department by taxpayers, but yet we bring in the money for the municipality. We'll hope to continue to do that going forward. So, and not only that, but one other thing, we do collect for Pitcairn, Gateway School District, and Wilkins Township, and they've also been able to benefit from our services as well, and for a small fee, less than what they would get if they went to an outside party.
Does your budget include the
The
service?
money for the other communities no longer is shown in our budget. A few years ago, many years ago, we made the recommendation, but a few years ago, we decided to sever our accounts from the finance office. So as money comes in, it comes into our office directly. Every month, we distribute to Pitcairn, Wilkins, Gateway, all of the money that we have. So everything that comes in goes back out. We handle the refunds and then give the townships their difference. So every month they're getting paid.
13 here.
Okay. And that's how we work that out. And that works much better. And I think the auditors, the outside auditors were on board with that. They really like that. It makes it easier to balance the books for the municipality. So thank you for having us.
Is there any
Wages, the wages on, if we go to expenditures,
All right.
when it says salary, how many employees is that?
So there are 4 full-time employees. The salaries would not include Pat.
That's without.
That's without Pat.
Yeah.
And where's, yours aren't shown in here?
It is shown in
Where?
there.
Consulting,
Consulting,
yeah, 2110,
2110.
Oh, okay, right there.
Yes.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
That is page 13.
Yeah.
Were you done with the revenue section?
No, I don't know. That's up to
We
you
were asked a
guys.
question.
Well, I
Yeah,
was curious. I understand you were answering the question.
She,
I thought she was done. That's
Yeah,
all.
I really-
we asked if there was any questions.
yeah, we don't, I mean, our rate, like the tax rates can't be raised after November 1988 with the Local Tax Enabling Act. And so there isn't a whole lot that we can do on our end other than what we're doing already, is making sure everybody pays their fair share. And that's our goal. We try to be friendly about it and better educate people on what their liability is and give money back when someone's overpaid. I mean, we really,
Is there a certain question you have, Mayor?
yeah.
No, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah,
that you
I
you're going to have a
thought, yeah.
presentation to give. I just didn't.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we only have 2 minutes because
We,
we have to allow for everybody.
we want to please council.
So,
So anyway, is there any question on the revenue side? And then we'll go to the expenditure side. Mrs. Gatis has a question.
I think I already got my answer.
All right, thank
The
you,
amount
Mrs.
of employees,
Gatis.
just to make clarified.
All right,
yeah, there's 4 full-time that,
I have one.
yes.
There's a $30,000 expenditure that doesn't seem to exist before.
yes, the software, and this money came out of, last year out of a different
Budget. It
budget,
was-
a different department.
was,
So we now, our software now is housed outside of the municipal building. And we pay a host fee and we pay for our monthly, maintenance fees and any type of support we need. We have, since 2003, we have never had an issue with this software company. It has been stellar. So they now host our server and maintain our records off-site. So
And it was
it's-
in Tina's budget.
It was
before.
in Tina.
And she
yeah.
rather reflected to
That
where
was
it
new
really,
to
where
us.
it belongs.
Yeah, Tina set it up so that we would move the host, and then once we did that, it became our
So it's
liability.
an outside service.
Yes.
It's an
that's a-
outside service, but it's, and it really hasn't increased, it's just switched departments.
But I was just going to say, but it's not a new service.
No.
No,
we
no,
just-
we've had the maintenance fee since 2003,
Just
and
didn't
we,
show here.
but the host part of it was new last year.
Yeah.
It was implemented last year.
That's what he,
And that's,
Gateway's-
as far as security goes, that's a better way to have
Yeah.
it.
it's Gateway's.
Absolutely, to have it.
Right.
But exactly, yeah. So
And you
that,
put it
that
where
was
it
a benefit
belongs.
to the municipality to
Yeah.
do it the way we did. So,
That's all I have.
Was there something more that you wanted to add
No.
as far as expenditures? I mean, as far as your presentation this evening?
Yeah, no.
no, our,
that's-
we're pretty much in line with all the other years. We keep going with our auditing program, which generates a lot of that revenue. So, and our expenses don't really change a whole lot.
You do know that part of these expenses will be charged to the school district.
Well, I was getting there.
Yeah,
That's what kind of like my
Yeah.
first question was.
So we are paid by the other townships for percentage of collections, except the mercantile tax. The mercantile tax was implemented way before all the other ones, and there was an agreement established many, many years ago, I think before at least 27 years ago, because it's been there since I've been here, and I've been here 27 years, where they share in the cost of our staff and our printing and supplies, and we track how much is for that particular tax only.
Do we charge them a flat fee?
no,
We have
each line item that you have here, the school,
Percentage of that is.
yeah, for example,
So many hours
one
of
of
my
our-
time.
one of our clerks works full-time on real estate. So she gets 50%. 50% belongs to the school and 50% belongs to the municipality. So, but all her wages are on that line item. And then we do the same for each other employee. And we give finance a copy of this, and they allocate it, and we send a bill to the school district. And it isn't, we used to be able to, well, which was bad accounting, they used to put it a credit against these line items. Now it comes in as revenue on the top line. It's a little
It
different
used
than
to
what,
be, yeah.
so that's where you see it at.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go back to revenue to see.
Yeah, you could see, Tim Little can show you on that revenue side.
It's probably the 17 account, costs covered by tax office. I think it would, I think it'd be in that account. We just started doing that since Josie's been here.
Yes.
So since we sat down with her and we talked about some things we didn't like, and that was one of them. So that again is a.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, very good.
Good.
So
Can we
it's all,
answer-
but it's
did
all
we-
there.
It's,
Yeah. Does it all make sense? Do you guys?
Yeah, I'm good.
Hey, thank you guys, did a great
Oh,
job.
You're
No
welcome.
questions, other questions for the tax office?
thank you.
Keep up the good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving over to our library budget, Nicole Henline, our director.
Hello, we are on page 99,
You starting with revenue or expenditures?
expenditures. But I would like to take this time to thank council, the mayor, the manager, and all municipal employees for their continued support of the library. I would also like to tell you a bit about the past year and what the library has been doing in service of the community. Libraries have always been a great equalizer, a place where everyone can access knowledge and information, no matter their situation or background. At a time when technology has changed how people learn and access information, that mission has continued and expanded. Beyond traditional books, knowledge is now hands-on and exploratory. We have embraced that and are helping to excite, support, and prepare the leaders of tomorrow by engaging learners of all ages with programming and outreach in STEM. The library is still a place where you can find a copy of your favorite classic or the newest James Patterson, but it's also a place where families can meet for playtime, kids can learn to code, adults can engage with their neighbors on important and interesting topics, and seniors can access one-on-one assistance with computers, tablets, and technology. And that is just a taste of what we're able to offer with your support and with the support of the community. Some people ask, why do we need libraries when we have smartphones and Google? I have two answers for that. The first comes from author Neil Gaiman, who said, Google can bring you back 100,000 answers. A librarian can bring you back the right one. In a time when we are inundated with so much information, it's important for community members to have a resource where they know that the information, they can seek information and assistance that will be valid. I also tell them that in a continually digital time, people want a place to create community. The library, much like our senior center and the parks, offer that type of space and opportunity. People at our library gather to discuss current issues, listen to music, music concerts, make art, dance, sing, create, discover, and explore. In our modern world, we're losing the places and connections that once brought us together. The library is a place to connect face to face, a place that offers welcome and community to everyone. Libraries are still vibrant. We are very fortunate with our funding and with our amazing staff to be able to offer a wide variety of programs, services, and materials. And I have just a very short slideshow. The first slide here shows some of the best attended and most loved programs from this year. Robotics story time, indoor mini golf, kindergarten readiness. They're just a few of the hundreds of programs offered each year. In 2017, 18,174 community members attended 927 programs, which was an increase of 122% over the past 4 years. And we're on track to increase that number even more for 2018 without losing the quality. That is always our goal. Next, you see our circulation numbers. Circulation numbers are exciting because these lead to money. These help leverage your money into more county money. Circulation means the items that are checked out every day. There's been a 28% increase in the past 4 years. We've worked very hard to obtain that type of growth in a time when other libraries are having circulation decreases. In Allegheny County, the median change in circulation in the same time period was a 0.1% decrease. Given our 28% increase out of 45 libraries, we were the third highest increase in circulation. And an increase in programming attendance and circulation leads to more people coming to the library and through the doors. Our door count shows over 160,000 visitors to the library last year alone, an increase of 15% over 4 years. I promise I won't read this whole thing. This year, we were honored. That's why I gave it to you, so I didn't have to read it. I don't want to take too much of your time. This year, we were honored to receive 3 awards celebrating our service to the community. We were recognized as a Gold Star Library by the Pennsylvania Library Association, denoting the highest level of excellence in programming and services to promote literacy, community health, finance skills, and information literacy. We were also humbled to receive the 2017 Monroeville Area Chamber of Commerce's Rock Award for Community Impact. That is what we hope to do every single day, so that award was extra special. And last but not least, our Children's Department received 2nd place in the Carolyn L. Smith Best Practices Award for Family and Multi-Generational Programs for their grant-funded program series called Reflections of Me. We also received multiple grants this year, which I will not read to you. You have them there in front of you, that will allow us to take our programming to the next level. As you know, we have 2 funding streams, one that is our support from you, the municipality, and one that includes our funding from the county, state, local library income, fundraisers, grants. From the 2nd stream, we were able to help save the municipality a little bit of money. This is why I numbered pages of capital by taking on a few projects that the board chose to use those alternative funding sources to have. And that included the elevator, which will be operational soon. We are hoping for December 1st, but if not December 1st, very soon afterwards. The boiler and the air handler, and that's in the past 2.5, 3 years. And our last slide, which I believe is the most important slide, shows the return on investment offered by the library. It is truly one of the best deals in town. For each dollar invested into the library, $4.11 worth of services are returned to the community. The large blue circle represents the value of all of our services if people had to pay for them out of pocket. And that's based on prices from Amazon and Netflix, not full cost. So it's a very valid number. The yellow circle represents all library expenses, and the green one represents municipal investment, and the orange state and county investment. We are very happy to be able to provide this type of return and hope to continue to grow it in the future by continuing to use our resources as effectively and efficiently as possible. The budget before you on page 99 is presented to you with support from the council-approved governing library board. We believe it's the budget that the library needs to continue offering information and informational and engaging programming services and materials. It will also allow us to remain a vital part of Monroeville and to continue forward as a leader and partner dedicated to building our community and enriching the lives of all. And I am prepared to take any questions you have on the budget.
Just one point of clarification,
Yes.
Nicole, too. So, because this was the biggest piece of education for me working with you guys this past year, has been understanding that the more we use and generate, the more we receive back in terms from the ALARA funds and from the kind of just spell that out again one more time.
Correct. So this year, our county money is going up because of the local financial effort, so the money that Monroeville puts into the library, and our increase in circulation. So between those two factors, we have, if not the largest, the second largest bump in county funds.
Coming in 19.
Yeah. From that point of view.
Nicole, I have a question. On the library value, 6.4 million. Where, and maybe, so where does that figure come from? Is that,
It is from a library calculator, and I have a page that shows you what that looks like. And we can't measure everything that we do, but the things we can measure, we did. And so it shows you how many we did, like adult books, how many we lent out, and then the average cost on Amazon, and then multiply that. Same thing with everything, the meeting room usage, computer usage. And I like this one because there was one a few years ago that used full price, but that didn't make much sense. This one uses the prices that normal people would pay through Netflix or Amazon, things like that.
I find it funny, video
Okay,
games
I
is the
see.
one that had the most income.
Yeah.
Video games that were borrowed.
Well, because they're the most expensive, because it's the hardest to get in any other way.
Yeah,
Right.
that's good, though.
And this didn't even include the hotspot piece.
No, this did not
That's a
include the new hotspots.
that's been a new
Yeah.
mid-year program to compare the hotspot loaning.
Yeah, that's new. We're going to have to figure out how to get that into the numbers for next year.
Well, I appreciate how much you've helped grow this library since you've come on.
Thank you.
I
Thank
agree.
you.
I really see such a huge change in the library itself, so I
Thank you.
good job.
Any other questions for Nicole this time?
Mayor, I'd just like to say thank you, Nicole, for a terrific job you guys are doing over there. You should be very proud of it. And I think our community should be proud of our library, and we should find ways to promote it more.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
And
much.
a
Thank
cheap-
you, everyone.
Cheap shout out to your outgoing president,
Yes.
Oh,
board president too.
it doesn't have to be cheap.
It's
We-
it'd be expensive, yeah.
Yeah, we
The
have
first
been.
ward, from your ward.
Thank you
Exactly.
to the council for providing us with a quality library board. We are so very lucky to have a board that takes their responsibilities seriously and helps us to choose the right path and make the plans so that we know what the right path is. And the staff has been phenomenal. We're doing Harwood. I don't want to bore you, but I'd love to talk to you about it sometime that's not now. The Harwood program that we're doing, I would love to talk about it in comparison to the whole community because it's gotten us a lot of great information.
Great.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks,
Thank you.
Nicole. Good
Thanks,
job,
Debbie.
as usual.
Thank you.
Hey, we're going to call up our fire chiefs this evening. Gentlemen, if you want to identify yourselves and where you're representing, that'd be great for the listening
Please
audience.
sign a sheet so I know the spelling of your names.
Will do.
Thank you.
Great, tell us your name and that you're from Monroeville.
Linda.
My name's Scott Fays. I'm the chief at Monroeville Fire Company number 4, and I'm also the Monroeville Fire Chiefs Committee Chair.
Chief Scott Belts, Monroeville number 1.
I'm Chief Ben Rudd from number 5.
Harold Kotowski, Monroeville number 6.
Welcome.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us. First, I'd like to thank the municipality and all the municipal officials for your continued support through all the years that you've allowed us to serve the community. And without that support, we certainly wouldn't be able to do our job. So we really appreciate that, and we'd like to thank you all for your continued support.
Council's benefit, it's on page 45, fire suppression.
There you go.
That's our expense, other than the capital, for the fire vehicles under the agreement that we expend, which is going to be budgeted for 2019. I'll let them explain. I'll let them explain.
So first, I'll let you guys take a look at the budget that's proposed there. We've made no changes to the budget from last year. So for the operational side of the budget, we are not making any increases to the budget at all. From
Councilman
2000.
Harvey wishes you to explain the Fire Relief Association, the next to the last line item, for $197,649. He would like you to explain that to council and the public, what that is.
Yes, sure. I'd be glad to do that for you. So the line item 001-2200, Fire Relief Association, that number appears in the budget. However, it really does not come from the municipality of Monroeville. That comes from foreign fire insurance that gets given to the fire department.
And what is foreign fire insurance?
Harold, help me out with that.
The quick answer is anybody who has a commercial building in this municipality with this zip code is charged a surcharge if they buy their building insurance from a company that does not reside in the state of Pennsylvania. That insurance premium addition that is surcharged is sent back to the fire department and the police department as a relief benefit. Since we do not have paid staff, we're all volunteer, those funds are used for safety and health purposes of the members that we have.
Excellent answer.
I have a quick question. When we look at the radio and communication equipment, since we've upgraded everything, or we're in the process of finalizing the upgrades for safety purposes within the police department, where do you guys fall as far as your radios and that? Do you not need upgraded as well to be on the same? So everybody's talking to everybody finally?
Yes, I was going to get that a little bit later. I was going to take any questions that you had on our current operational budget.
Okay,
and
I
then
didn't see
was
any
gonna,
increase, so I just wondered. I didn't know if you were sufficient or not.
Thank you.
There.
Thank you.
The other piece of that on the foreign fire relief, Josie, it's also too, since we've changed that, that shows as at first revenue, but we're really just we're really the fiduciary
Well,
for the foreign fire relief. And
It's
then,
more a flow through.
yeah.
Just kind, and actually, if you want to see the revenue, it's in the finance section, which is on page 26. However, I'm going to make a comment that budget for 2019 is $162,058. So that
We have to change that.
2019 budget under Fire Relief Association expense should be down, reduced to the same amount.
It was only 161,000 actually this year.
What, that you
that we
received?
received, yeah.
Okay.
So 161 received for, that should be under the line item of
Right.
the revised budget 2018. Should be 161 in the revenue.
Sure, on 171. Wait, am I looking at the wrong thing?
Sorry, Josie. Are you saying that
Yeah,
if we look at
we got
the
that
finance,
last year.
Right.
the revenues,
It should be 160.
It's under,
the 2018 revised budget should be 161 revenue and not 197?
Correct.
That's correct.
Right.
That
So
was
that-
that was based off of what we got last year.
2018. But did you,
17.
I'll have to look at that when I, tomorrow.
That'll have to be changed. That was not changed. When we did the final budget last year, that number
Right.
kicked over from 2017 wasn't changed. So you're saying that number, Josie, is 160,
Well, 160.
162,
161 something.
but he said 161.
161 something, yeah.
So what are we saying?
This year.
So what are we saying for 2019?
Well, you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think we
It goes down
received
each
Been
a
going
letter.
down every year.
We do know.
You
So you
received
start
a
with
letter.
last year's. That's what
Really,
you
that
apply.
number doesn't impact the municipality at all, because
Because it
just
passes.
like she
Correct.
said, it's a
It
flow,
doesn't.
it's a flow-through, because
Yeah.
the money comes from foreign fire insurance. They have to submit that money to the municipality of Monroeville, and then the municipality of Monroeville just moves the money into our Monroeville Volunteer Fire Relief Association.
Which is then
Exactly.
every other year audited from the state.
Right.
Right.
Thank you for the explanation. That's the
Yes.
clarification we
Yes.
were looking for.
So if you take that number away, it looks like our operational budget is nearly $400,000 a year for the fire suppression. However, really, it's only around 200,000.
Yeah.
Because, so that kind of,
And that's why Councilman Harvey wanted
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
to explain that, which I can understand. And that's in every community. We are the fiduciary of that, and we have to take that money. That money does not come from the state directly to the fire relievers. Every municipality has to take that in, and we have to account for it. When I say account, I mean from an accounting perspective. We have to show it coming in, and we have to show it going out. So yes, it does inflate your expenses, but as Josie said, it's just a pass-through. That's for the benefit of the public.
Understood.
Sorry, took you out of order.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead,
okay.
please. by all
Scott, go
means.
ahead. The floor is yours.
Any other questions about the operational budget on the fire side? And we also have the operational budget on the EMS side as well, page 51. Again, no changes on that or increases on the budget, on the operational budget for EMS for 2019.
Ambulance contributions. The last line item, 5307.
That's the allotment that the municipality gives to each EMS company in Monroeville for, it's embedded into the fire agreement.
Okay. And that
That's
figure
where
then
that
is
comes
divided
from.
up.
Yeah, yes. It's paid to 5,000 per ambulance.
Got it. Any other questions, council?
Pardon me.
Any other questions?
Again, thank you, gentlemen. You do a terrific job.
I didn't
Yeah,
even
I'm
answer my
I'm
question.
I'm going to answer Linda's question now.
Okay.
So the Monroeville Fire Department, Monroeville Fire Chiefs Committee has discussed some things. In relation to radios, we've been working together with the police department in upgrading our radios, which we did at our own expense for 2018. Portable radios, yeah, because there's a difference, portable and mobile radios. In the past 2 years, we've spent over $1 million of our own Relief Association money on outfitting every department with new SCBA units. And
You want to explain what that is to the public?
an SCBA is a self-contained breathing apparatus,
Oh,
and we bought
thank you.
105 of those. That outfitted the whole department, all stations,
Wow.
with new self-contained breathing apparatus. The air tanks the firemen
Yeah.
wear to go into a
That
burning
most of us
building.
only see on the movies,
That's correct.
thank goodness. but-
So that
Okay.
all of our at that time last year in 2017, our SCBA units had met the end of their life. They have a 15-year life span on them, and then you have to get new ones.
For those of you that, just to interrupt you for a second, for anybody out there that watches television as much as I do, if you watch the program Station 19, it's a fire program, and it shows all the equipment you guys are using.
That's even
It's
new to
on.
me, Jim. Yeah, I didn't even know that one.
Well, that's a true story. You look, and all you see is MSA written everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to
Stuff
say,
they're
you
using.
see MSA everywhere.
Okay.
So, like I said, over in the past 2 years, over $1 million we've spent out of our Relief Association. So we save that up for these large purchases. That money we get from foreign fire insurance, we put in the bank because we're a large department. We have very large expenditures such as SCBA units, radios, equipment, and et cetera. So we also purchased this past year portable radios And
Is that the ones you guys carry with you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's what
that's
that would be
correct.
called.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the little handheld walkie-talkie type thing.
Okay,
So we spent almost $300,000 on upgrading all the fire apparatus with brand new portable radios.
okay.
Now that leads me into my next request. The Monroeville Fire Department and Fire Chiefs Committees have discussed, and we are requesting some funds for the 2019 budget for 2 projects. And the first project, we'd like to request $86,000 to upgrade our mobile radios.
Now, what's the difference between those?
The mobile radios are actually the radios that sit in each fire truck and ambulance. They're in there physically. They can't be moved. That's the radios we use to communicate with other units in the dispatch center to when we respond to incidents. So that was the first project we were going to request for, and we were also going to request an additional $10,000 to upgrade the Monroeville Public Safety Training Center for multiple small projects that we've been trying to complete but haven't been able to get there. So things like we have a cascade system, which is the system that fills our air tanks that we wear on our back on the SCBA units. That is, we have all the hardware. We just need to get it installed at the training center. Also, the burn building, the tower, is in need of painting. So we're getting quotes on that. And we have some equipment to put in a fire department sprinkler and standpipe
Training
system for the 4-story part of the training center. And we also were looking to build a flat roof and floor ventilation simulator, but that's going to be handled by us. We just wanted to bring up a couple projects that we would like to request some funds for to help us cover the cost of that. We really have never asked for any funds before to upgrade the Monroeville Public Safety Training Center, so we thought this would be a good year. Currently we have no apparatus replacement for the next 2 years, so there's no vehicles that need
For 2
replaced.
years.
That's correct.
So this would be a good time then, if we're going
This
to do
would be
it.
a good
This is a
time.
good time.
Well, 2020 is the next vehicle apparatus purchase from Company 5. Their engine needs replaced.
On the radios, you said the portable radios, Scott.
No, we already purchased the portable radios. We're looking to get mobile radios
I'm sorry.
for our apparatus.
I might fill council in that in the project of doing the whole new Monroeville radio system that we've talked about on several occasions, counting putting the repeaters in the mall and the new microwave systems that took down the phone lines that we don't have to pay for anymore, and upgrading the police radio system, Motorola is offering them a very tremendous price on these mobile radios because of the massive purchase we have just done to complete this radio system. And so I can tell you that $84,000 is probably 25% to 30% off the normal cost. Only because I've been handling the policemen.
Tim, can you add those two into, and we can take a look at how things fall out?
Yeah, that'll have to come out of capital.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right hand, left hand.
I mean, the 10,000 could be in operation.
Right.
Yeah. But I certainly think it's well worth us taking a look at. Communication so that, they can help keep us all safe.
Well, but also for the first time with the project, this is the first time that with the police being moved up,
Yes.
we're truly integrating
And
the two systems, and this is the added part of it, yeah.
We've worked
to
hard
get that integrated
to get here.
and to move the
So,
police up to the
I think
UHF.
we need to finish it out,
Yeah. So,
cross the finish line a little bit. So,
we'll take it into consideration, absolutely.
Thank you so much. Any more questions for the fire department?
No, sir.
thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move over to our police department. And our police chief, Doug Cole, please.
Want me to start the timer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jim, this is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Linda, you've got the hook.
What are you giving them, 2 minutes?
I'm writing in
2 minutes is all you want?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Give us the bridge version.
It's not going to do you any good.
Reader's Digest.
Welcome, chief. Do you know what page you are on, or where do you want to start?
Well, page 29 is the start of the police administration budget line.
Page 29 under expenditures, council. Whenever you're ready, chief. Go ahead.
Well, again, on behalf of the police department, I want to thank council, mayor, certainly administration, and the funding sources that we've had for the past year and what we've been able to do at both the police department, we just talked about communications, and certainly with our dispatch center that continues to move into some new technology and make things, we believe, safer here for the residents of the municipality. This year we had we're currently at staffing level of 45 officers. We just gave another test on Monday for new hires that will go into next year. We anticipate between 3 and 4 officers retiring sometime during the year next year that will need to be replaced. And part of the budget with the municipal manager was to add 2 positions to take us to 47 sworn officers, which should be budgeted in the under the patrol division, or shouldn't be budgeted in the police budget. Some of the accomplishments we did this past year, certainly the radio system was #1. It seemed like it took, as Councilman Harvey will certainly attest, a little longer than we wanted it to go to get it implemented. It's still finishing up the final stages of a 3-channel, 4-site simulcast radio system, which you did by assisting the fire departments in getting mobile radios in addition to the portables that they use their Relief Association money to purchase, enables that system to move technology-wise for the next 20 years. One of the future avenues of this system and why we want all the radios to be the same is that we may have to trunk it. Trunking is a system that's similar to what cellular telephones do and would increase what they call talk pathways or talk groups, give us more access to different parts of the system, and that can only be done with having the same type of radios. So as we speak now, our 3 sites are up and running. That we have had got tower space and had to get contracts with them. The solicitor did an excellent job of helping us out. He had a little bit of experience in that with his previous time, so we were able to get those sites very quickly, and we're finishing up the mall site this month, and we'll be able, I was just meeting with the Monroeville Mall personnel, and they're very excited about how that will also increase their radio communications there, as well as give us really unimpeded radio communications throughout the mall and the surrounding area around that. So that's been the big battle this year, and it's, I said, it took a little bit longer than we thought it did, but it's obviously coming to fruition. Our mobile radios have been installed in the police vehicles, as well as the portable radios have been issued to all the officers, and they've been using it with great success for the past couple months. So,
just to confirm, please, just to remind council, in the name of teamwork, this was all possible because the fire department's donated the police department a channel. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And using the channels that they have, we've hopefully made it better for all. One of the things we are still working with Motorola is to get additional channels and licensing for that. We are continuing to apply and continue through that process.
So we have
yes,
true
the fire department.
interoperability.
We do have true interoperability. We have true interoperability. One of the reasons why we didn't move quickly more expeditiously to the trunking system is because we would have jumped too far ahead of the county. That's just a simple way. If we would have done a trunk system here in Monroeville, people mutual aiding coming into our community could not talk to us. This way we stayed on the same platform. It's called an analog multiplex platform, and we stayed on that platform intentionally because it was, we anticipate that the county having to do something like that in the future, and we'll be able to move if we have to move with them.
We're farming ahead of the curve.
The dispatch center, along with the district attorney's camera system and license plate reader system, has been very effective. It continues to be effective. The dispatchers are actually doing some police work, if you want to say now. We're searching for some vehicles as a follow-up investigations. They do an excellent job there monitoring them. We continue to keep that technology up and running. And of course, that technology also rolls over to the security of the municipal building and the areas in and around the municipal building. To put things in perspective, currently in the department, we have 5 detectives, myself in administration, 2 civilian employees with support services, and 39 officers assigned to the patrol division. And that's how we've been staffing here for this whole year. Our staffing continues to be 4 officers and a supervisor on daylight, 5 officers and a supervisor on second shift, all shifts, second shift being 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and the 11 p.m. to 7 p.m. shift, we have alternate of 4 officers and a supervisor, and on the weekends, we have 5 officers and a supervisor. So we continue to provide visibility and exposure, and we think good service by doing that to the residents here in the municipality. Without getting into a lot of investigations, we've been doing quite a bit of investigations that have been task force related, both drug task force, I guess we'll call them human trafficking task forces, prostitution type stuff, and of course just general long-term investigations that we continue to cooperate with all the agencies. I call them the alphabet soups, the FBI, DEA, ATF, IRS. We do also cooperate with ICE. We only deal with the ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, at the criminal level. We deal with their criminal investigators. We don't have to deal routinely with any of the immigration, quote unquote, but anything with their criminal investigations, we certainly cooperate with them and do everything we can to keep any type of movement by any of those agencies in our municipality safe. And of course, that goes hand in hand with the fact that we cooperate with the state police and the Allegheny County Police and all the neighboring agencies that border us, and even in the county. We maintain liaisons and organizations with all those municipalities. We obviously can participate in information sharing, and we solved many cases as well as help solve cases in other communities by doing that, and we'll continue to do that. Technology is a big issue. I know you had some discussions previously. Budget-wise, it continues to be a very big issue for the police department. When you look at technology for us, and I say information technology, when we have to, I don't need to tell anybody up from council, 2 days from now, it'll be changed again, or let's say 2 weeks. But the reality is it changes pretty dramatically, and keeping up with that, and keeping up with the requirements that both the federal, state, and county requires us to do, it has been burdensome, very difficult at times, I should say. We're trying to be better with that. Our technology is going to continue quite a bit, and even our budget time for next year, we'll discuss that with the upcoming budget, is pretty intense. It seems everything that we do, whether we're talking on these new radios that we have here, or whether we're talking on our issued cell phones that every officer has, is technology. Camera systems, I don't need to tell anybody in this room, camera systems are very important, and we're kind of looking to migrate toward the body camera, in-car camera systems next year. Our in-car camera systems are currently Panasonic's, just for the sake of the name of the company. We've been in in-car cameras in Monroeville. We were a leader in that in the western part of Pennsylvania. We've actually been in them for, over 20 years. I think we're on our 4th generation now of in-car cameras. Usually a 5 to 7 year useful life. These in-car cameras are now coming to an end of their useful life. They need to be replaced next year, and we've discussed that under operating with going to a combination in-car camera system, body camera, which will be new, and even those camera systems will also roll into a interview room type camera system that we have to do. We don't have to do, but the district attorney has suggested we do post-Miranda interviews under audio video, which is what we're trying to do, trying to meet that. I guess without getting into specifics, does anybody have any questions on my budgets? Just an overview of what's going on with the department. The big change this year, though, is we are requesting to go to 47 sworn officers from where we were budgeted at 46, and we only got to 45 this year. So we're budgeted to really only increase 1 officer as compared to what happened from last year.
Chief, under emergency communications, with part-time salaries, which are now 0, I'm on page 31. Temporary employees.
Might have caught me something in there.
Page 31. Second line, 1,300. The temporary employees. You were,
I don't know why.
or is that shifting to the other salary line?
The full-time employees, if you notice, that went up, but that went up, I have to defer to just.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what we've been putting in that line item because you really don't have temporary or part-time employees.
Well, we do have one.
Oh, emergency communications, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I gotta be on the right page here. Yeah, I'm not sure why we have that, other than it might have been a typo kind of thing, but I can check that.
That wouldn't be any kind of outside IT or anything, would it?
No.
No, it's part-time dispatch.
It's hard to.
Yeah.
And we
Do
do
you need
have
any more
part-time
help? Do you need any more
dispatchers.
help
Part-time
in there?
for the police.
Yes, we do. We do have part-time dispatchers. We currently have 9 full-time employees there, and well, partial, one's a full, really 2 part-time, if you want to call that. We're in the process of hiring 2 more part-time employees for that
Okay.
position. So the answer is we do have to put some money in there
So
for
yeah, exactly.
2019,
Well,
absolutely.
you can see I mean, last year's budget, or this year's budget, I should say, is 40,000, and the overtime, it was increased to 80,000. And the actual at the end of the third quarter of last year was about $73,000. Now, we haven't had any, the overtime's been going up because we haven't had any part-time, like you're saying, Doug. And what I believe happened there probably, but we'll have to check on Jill's spreadsheet on that, is that money was kicked into overtime. But if you're going to put in for part-time, you're going to take it out of the overtime.
Possibly.
Put it into
We'll juggle
part-time.
that, absolutely.
That's
I will make
probably
this
what happened.
comment, that the department heads really don't input the budget for wages and salary. That comes from finance, so.
Thank you,
So you're taking the blame.
You're taking a hit for that. one.
I
Yeah,
am,
appreciate it.
you know?
Team player.
Taking one for the team, huh?
That's
So
right.
yeah, if we just get the updated sheets,
Good
so we can
catch,
see
though,
where it all
Mayor.
breaks down, and
We have a lot of adjustments
Good.
throughout the budget to make, and we will certainly get that to you.
and to be clear, obviously, council will have all of that before a vote is taken on
Oh,
the budget.
absolutely, yeah.
Just so everyone
Right.
knows that.
Thank you.
Doug, is there capital items you're looking for?
Oh, well, just pulled them up here. Thank you very much. If we want to talk about what I look forward to in 2019, besides adding an extra position, which is great, and I appreciate the council funding that, we're going to have to hire those people. Okay, and in addition to hiring, we're going to have to promote people. Part of it's conceivable that we could lose 3 frontline supervisors in retirements pretty quickly next year, with a 4th going the following year, early on the next year in 2020. So that's something that we want to do through civil service, do promotions, get that started this year for next year. Whenever we do promotions, we have to give reading lists and study guides, and they need at least 60 days according to rules, so that the officers can study up before they take the test. So I want to get that moving here this month, actually, for next year.
Now, do you set a date for the test, basically, then go back from there? Is that
That's
what
correct.
you
We will
work it?
set a date for the test and then go back at least 60 days, if not,
Okay.
so whatever we get, or better yet, when we advertise that we're promoting and what promotions we're going to do, we'll go ahead and make sure it's a 60 days plus out.
Okay,
of that.
very good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's,
But then when you look at the capital projects for next year, the routine projects that Manager Little's already funded for or in the budget is for new vehicles. We're getting 4. I think we have budgeted for, as I read. Usually it's anywhere between 3 and 5, and that's with the need of the department based on mileage and how much the vehicles are used and the issues if we're having a lot of mechanical issues with it. So we take the garage, the municipal garage into consideration, as well as Dave O'Neill, who's our fleet manager. And then in addition to that, your capital stuff, we talked about the body camera, in-car camera system. That system over a 5-year period is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $320,000. With that being said, it seems like the proper way to do that is to go through an operating expense on it at roughly $69,000 a year for 5 years. Part of that doing that is the issue of body cameras, as we even find with the issue with our in-car cameras, is that we have to store the data, and we have to store the data according to state law. And it varies on, it's at least 90 days, but certainly could be a lot more. And with that being said, certainly if you have 50, if an officer has body camera on and there's an in-car camera, and you got interview room camera, there's just more video. It's just common sense. So, so we're looking at that expense. The average suggestion at the national level was 80% of that fund. So 80% of 300,000 in rough figures. Tom, you're the big math guy here, whatever that is. That's just for storage of the video and maintenance of the video. The capital expenditure per se on the units themselves has dropped dramatically. We used to buy in-car camera systems for $5,000. They are really down to less than $1,000, the actual hardware. So if you do the reoccurring, you want to call quote-unquote lease of the 5-year program, you're covering all your storage of data. You're also, and being able to mine that data and get it out when you need to get it. And then in addition to that, they're replacing any equipment that fails. They automatically maintain that.
Well, Doug, isn't it true that we're making every attempt to segregate the law enforcement, public safety radio room and communications from the rest of the municipality?
We are.
Computer-wise.
That's correct. Well, not just computer-wise, but just the whole system in general because of many reasons. One being the fact that the federal government's forcing that issue down on the states for security.
So would the new computer, could we buy it big enough to handle that?
Well, at this point, we're going to be taking they'll have to be separate. Ron. They cannot be. That's going to be its own server away from us holding the video. One of the reasons, it's the cloud, is what it really comes down to. One of the reasons we want to go with that, it also gives the access to the district attorney's office to get that video when it's needed for prosecution. So it's kind of just, it's a big picture look at things using the cloud. And I've really come to that, that's the conclusion. And the camera system is probably going to be the Axon system. You know, it's a state contract issue, but also that system seems to be, if you look at any of the video you've seen from LA, Las Vegas, New York City, they've all, Phoenix, they've all, City of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania State Police are trialing them now. It seems like that's the way to go. There's a couple, 2 big 3 units in it. Axon's the biggest one. It seems that's the way, and that is the way that the district attorney's office has set up already to be able to access that, so we don't have to worry about putting things on hard copy and hand delivering them to the DA's office.
And the specifics of that you'll run through with Mr. Little, and
absolutely
it'll get disseminated to council.
And of course, there's an issue with the buy-in of the officers, and we're going to do that too. Have them involved in it, including our labor people, labor side of things. We want everybody to understand that this is going to be, and the reason I think this is important for the department is that the state passed good legislation to protect that video and not make it open to everybody. It is not by state law under the Right to Know, Freedom of Information Act. If you want to get that video, you have to have standing, you have to get it through a judge, and that's the way it should be. It's a court subpoenaed video, and it'll be produced the way it should be. So that protects everybody's privacy, and I really, from the officers on down to the people that are on the video for whatever reason they're on it. So that's our future, and I think you'll see more municipalities throughout the state of Pennsylvania doing this. All the major cities, Philadelphia is doing it now, all the major cities, and I said the state police are in a pilot program as we speak.
Very good. Good information. Any other questions for the police chief council?
Well,
I have one.
Please.
Chief, how do you plan to support all this new technical equipment that you need, for example, the body cams and the onboard cameras?
Again, very good question. We have discussed, and we're still, I think we're kind of getting a lean that we need to do that. I need IS support. I need information services support at my level, meaning assigned to me. The reason I say that is, again, I'll give you an example. Washington, D.C., every police department, every precinct, they got 7 districts. They call them districts. Or as soon as they start going to the body cameras, they immediately assign a civilian person that was responsible for that from their IT department. Major FBI, DEA, they all have that done locally, assigned at their level. There's a security issue there. There's also an issue, it's technology, and you have to have people helping it out. I think Councilman Harvey was trying to bring up the point is that in addition to that, when you look at everything that we, as I just said here, our cell phones, our radio system, our camera system, our license plate reading system, our in-car cameras, our building cameras here, our computer system here,
If I recall
our
correctly.
NCIC clean system,
If I recall correctly, we've been talking about IT people into the police department for some time.
Many
long
years,
time.
many years.
Very, you're right,
And
Mr.
it's
Johnson.
only going to get worse. And we are at that level now. We cannot make this move to body cameras without an IT person.
Do you
I've
think
come to
a
that
full-time
now.
human being or a contractor?
I think it probably needs to be a full-time human being or somebody that's putting 3 or 4 days sitting here for a period of time.
Right.
I mean, we can contract, we can try to do that and work our way in to see if we need an FTE, but the reality is we need to have people that, because they're going to have to meet all kind of security stuff, and then on top of that, they're going to have to understand our system, which might have little quirks to it. And
they would be kept completely separate from the municipality. That would be only for our public safety
Right.
downstairs.
And we can even roll it in, and we're not even getting, and I know that's what we're talking about, the computers. You got your computer-aided dispatch system. You have your phone system down there that needs to be looked at. That needs to be updated. You have the fire stations out as we send data out to them. We need to be more tied into the fact of what we're giving data-wise. We're following the rules. We're being secure. They're being very security conscious, but we need to make sure that that's meeting all the requirements, that there isn't something in between that's causing an issue. It just goes on and on.
And all that being said, that is not reflected in this budget.
It is not reflected in this budget.
Okay, so
currently. I would obviously advise to put it under
Well,
support
there-
services. You'd have to get, I have some, I'm trying to get some, I do have, not in my hands yet, but I will have by the end of tomorrow, I would imagine some type of a outline of what kind of person we're looking at. You're looking at if you do an FTE, you're probably looking at a salary structure somewhere in that 65 to 85 category, meaning 85,000, 65,000 to 85,000. So you're looking something in that hole, and that's not counting benefits. That's just what the going rate is for these people that, or departments that actually have their own IT.
Doug, between computers, body cameras, police cameras, CAD systems, the computer dispatch system, everything that's in the radio room, telephones,
Record management system?
record management,
Just keeps
video
going.
cameras out there in the public at the intersections. Do you think there's one firm or one person out there that could do this?
I think there's someone you could hire to do that. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and if you don't, you could hire, we could contract an organization. But the problem with contracting you get multiple different people, it becomes a security issue.
Right. That's why
Well,
I
you
was
want to get
wondering
one
what you
person
thought would
or
be
maybe
better.
2 people. I would prefer to have one that
One
wants to
regular
work with us.
full-time, that's.
And we can train him when we have to send him to and certainly he can cooperate or be part, or he has to be accountable, I think, to me, just because
I
I
agree with
need
that.
that. But because there's going to be so many different things changing there. But certainly, he can be liaison with what we currently have with the IS. He's
Well,
not
and
going to be in a
I think
total
It needs to be
vacuum.
separated,
Yeah.
though, from the municipality for
Absolutely.
security
Well,
reasons.
We did discuss last week, too, on that integration, the idea that those people, they've got to cooperate
Right,
a
so-
little higher to do
Agreed.
that, too, because there's so much.
What we want to try to do is we want to try to isolate the police floor with our dispatch and public safety phones. We want to try to isolate that from the rest of the building. It doesn't mean it has to be totally separate, but it certainly has to be separate enough.
Or secure.
And secure enough.
There you go.
And everything is going VoIP,
Right.
voice over IP. I'm not, Tina knows better than I about all this, but it's all going that way, which then comes back to your pipeline size of your internet coming into your building. And that's just common sense. Look at this. So we cannot, I can tell you I would not be in favor of and absolutely not do body cameras without my own IT person. It's that simple.
I would think that would
and
bring in so much
it's
more
that dramatic,
information.
absolutely.
That even Tina would absolutely rip all her hair out trying to.
And I came to that conclusion, I've been at that conclusion for a couple of years, like you said, Councilman Johns. I've been saying it quietly for a few years.
She
But the
couldn't
straw
handle
that's
it. I
breaking the
wouldn't.
camel's back here are the videos.
Sure.
And our in-car cameras need to be replaced because they've ended a useful life. If you're going to make the move to do body cameras, now's the time to
do it
do
all
it
together.
jointly. And then we've just talked, the manager and I talked based on what happened, a little bit. We want to update the building security, which you're talking about cameras. Cameras, and I got to throw out, we had an incident just the other day, meaning November 10th or where we, in 9th, it was November 8th or whatever, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Yeah, I can't, I'm already at the 10th.
The
What day?
6th.
Whatever
I don't
day.
know, you
We're-
just
I'm
made
at
me
the
think 4
8th,
days
it's the 8th, whatever. Early November, let's just do it that
There
way.
we go.
In early November, where we had an issue of a child exchange in the parking lot of our police station, which happens often. And we have a sweeping camera back there, that's an okay camera, and it sweeps though, it doesn't stay on one spot. So the reality of that,
Yeah, was it?
Child exchange is when people exchange.
Custodies.
Custody.
During child custody hearing cases.
So
Divorces and
what
all.
occurred there was an altercation that obviously was quickly taken care of by the Monroeville Police Department, but that issue now is going to court. There's an emergency PFA, and it's actually going to be in Westmoreland County. And I pulled the video up, and it really doesn't help us. Because the idea of video there, so our building cameras and our cameras outside this building, as well as inside this building, are now coming, they've been replaced a little bit on the way here, but they're now coming to being 18 years old.
You know, I think we already know our IT department now struggles on a daily basis just to keep up with what's going on in-house. As we're here.
Councilman John, you are 100%
You
correct.
can't
They put
add
out
any
fires,
more.
they do a great job of putting
Yeah,
out
you can't
fires,
add
but we're not being ahead of it.
If
That's
I
exactly
could
right.
make, if I could make suggestions, so what I'm hearing from council is that what the chief is describing here is something that council's interested in pursuing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I
So
agree
what I'd make
100%.
the suggestion is that, Chief, if you could meet with the manager, and if you two could figure out what it would take for us to have a full-time person in that department.
Yes.
Just so everyone knows, council would be considering this budget at the soonest would be at our December 11th regular council meeting. So we have some time as far as when we're talking about making some of these changes, these line items, talking about these type of things during the budget hearing process. So there is some time, but if, Chief, if you could sit down
Yes,
with
sir.
Manager
Absolutely.
Little and give council a better idea of what we're looking at here.
One more thing, Mayor, when he was talking about the incident that just happened, the idea that I had brought up, which we haven't pursued fully yet, and that's one of the reasons, is we wanted to give a safe place for that type of activity to happen. We were talking about only having it behind our building, but with a sweeping camera, we could have some liability by advertising this as a safe meetup place.
Well, it's still a safe place with cameras or without
Yes,
cameras. But the cameras make it more safer, and of course, it's just one more layer of security.
Correct.
And that's exactly what we want to do.
Yes.
I mean, we still want to, exchanges here are okay.
Yes.
We got to make sure that's understood. We're not making that decision totally in a vacuum either. That's being done by the court system too. So it's the way it is.
Yes.
Would I like to do them in other places? Maybe, but really, this
Well, I
police
think,
station's a
I
safe
think
place.
back here's
You're
the best
saying
place.
it's a sweeping camera. Why can't we mount a couple stationary cameras? I mean, they're not
Well,
really that
But the
expensive.
system obviously is now, I don't know.
I know we're saying it's outdated, but why couldn't we add a couple stationary cameras? I'm just
We
curious.
can.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that, well, I'm not sure we can. I believe we can. We have spots in the server to collect it, because remember, you still got to collect all the data. So the data has to be it has to be saved on some type of a server or some type of DVR or whatever, and that's what our system is antiquated. It's 19 years old.
So this needs to be addressed. It's very
It certainly
clear.
needs to be
So-
addressed. And it's a building security issue as well as just an overall issue of what we need to do to move forward as technology changes on us.
Council, dispatchers have reported to me when they answer an EMS call, the computer system starts telling them what questions to ask the person and maybe even help them render medical aid while they're waiting for the ambulance. And the computers have actually been bogged down during the day when they're all in use upstairs, and they're waiting for the computer to tell them the next question, which is ridiculous. And they're trying to help somebody on the phone with a medical problem, and the computer's not responding fast enough for them to do it.
And the back end of that, though, is we have cards that we could flip up and do, and they do an excellent job of overcoming that situation. So we have cards we can flip to manually. But the idea is you want to put that in the computer because then it's saved, then it's documented, and then it's in our RMS system. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure we do that consistently and obviously for the benefit of the public.
Well, it sounds to me that this is something that council wants to correct for 2019. So if we could drill down some of the specifics of what we're looking for and get back to us on that.
Okay. My next thing for next year, too, is to try to credit the department a statewide accreditation, which is there's an expense that we put in the operating budget to offset that. Again, we need cooperation with the rank and file on that. We have that cooperation with them. They've been doing a great job of keeping that moving forward as it's been moving forward over the years. And that's basically policy development and then development of benchmarks that we meet. Next year, we're also going to meet a benchmark of a quarterly 8-hour block of training for officers every 3 months. Most of that's going to be associated with firearms because of the nature of stuff that's happening here. We are doing that as aggressively as we can. We did 3 times this year, just as a side note. We are kind of a leader in some of the less lethal. We have some less lethal instructors that enables to use what they call foam batons in different type of rubber, if you want to call them rubber bullets without lack of, just the best way to put it, to be able to have some type of another less lethal option besides our options of tasers, which we have new ones we got last year, and, pepper spray and, impact weapons that we also carry. So as we move through that. Next year, I also looked to upgrade the handguns that we are currently carrying. They're coming to the end of their useful life. However, that shouldn't be any type of an expense to us. That's hopefully going to be an asset seizure expense that we'll have some money left over there after the radios the manager raids that for all the radios, which is good. So we will have
as long as the cars come out, it's 6 to 1, half dozen of the other.
Left hand, right hand, correct?
Yep,
That was pretty
left hand,
good.
right hand.
So we have cars that we are going to look to try to fund our detectives into some new vehicles that we're going to rotate through that too. And we've talked about the IT, the CAD RMS, the accreditation. That's kind of my capital. You did fund here, I will sit with both of you about putting some extra money in the public safety training center's budget for what the fire guys want to do, which is great. Painting it, one of the things I've been looking into is the fire tower that they talked about. I didn't really have a chance to talk to them. Has to be inspected now according to NFPA standards, so there's an inspection cost. They'll come out, the company that built that tower, and be able to make sure that it's safe to be used for live fire exercises. So there's an expense there. We'll get money budgeted for that. Apparently that seems to be something we want to move forward.
I think they put that in there.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that we have that also. So that we can put, and that live fire tower, just as a side note, was a Representative Markozik event that he was able to fund. That was $350,000, and he got that on a grant to us when we put this together back in '07. So that was a great thing that outgoing Senator or House Representative Joe Markozik did for the municipality. And certainly and that is used by all, as the fire chief should have told you if they didn't, that's used by many departments all over the eastern, well, heck, all over Allegheny County, not just the eastern suburbs. Allegheny and Westmoreland, even as far up as Butler County, they come down to those classes.
Very good.
Anybody have any other questions?
Council?
Nope.
Excellent
Thank
information,
you.
Chief. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Good job, Chief.
And if you could just
Chief.
get that extra information back to Mr.
I
Little,
will.
and then
I'll make sure
council will consider it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move over to the Finance Department. If you,
Well, I have
okay,
pass out.
that's fine. Josie Rock from our Finance Department, our Finance Director.
Just a little summary.
I'm okay.
Our most recent Citizen Police Academy.
Get one, Steve.
I don't care.
Give the rest of me and I'll hand them down. We'll get it going.
All right.
Thank you.
I said, you're not that important.
So I'll make this real quick.
Hey, girl.
Proud of you.
What page, Ms. Rock?
Your pages are all here.
So if we
Everything
look
you
at this
need.
packet, that
This
has
is
all the
you need.
information. Okay, very good.
All right. First, I'd like to thank Mayor, Council, and the manager for the continued support of the Finance Department, which enables us to perform our jobs to the best of our ability. On the first page, we have the finance accomplishments, and I'm not going to read them all because of time constraints, but one of the things we've done is we've facilitated better earnings on our investments through meeting with the bankers and actually monitoring the rates, and we will change the CDs accordingly. And the other thing I'd like to add is I've negotiated for lower audit fees, which took place for 17, 18, and 19. When I came on in April of 17, we still hadn't finished. They were working on the 16 audit, and so that's when I negotiated for those better rates. The next page is the goals for finance. I'm going to just highlight goal number 2 is to reduce the audit fees going forward when our contract is up which is, what did I say, 19?
19.
Okay. Possibly consider going for putting an RFP out just to ensure that we're still getting, the best possible rate. All right. So on your third page is the revenues that is allocated to the finance department. We're looking at a total of $3.2 million, and as your page indicates, note A, all those revenues with the A attached to it are shared revenues, which come from the Commonwealth based upon formulas that they have, that's fair and equitable to all municipalities. And we really have no control over any of those revenues. And the ones without an A, like the no lien letters, building rentals, gas royalties, we're sort of whatever, depends on how many mortgages and that type of thing. So we don't really have much control over that either. But, okay. Most importantly, what you're interested in is the expenses. And all these numbers will tie back to what's in the budget. All I did was copy the budget into a spreadsheet. But what I did for your review is I broke up the expenditures into what is salary and benefits, which, again, as I said earlier, that's controlled by finance and actually by you, depending on, the union contracts and so forth. I did want to point out that we have, this is just for finance, the letter B, that is retiree health care costs, which accounts for about 16% of the total expenditures for employee salaries and benefits for finance alone, and that is about $97,000. The controllable expenses, which is your accounting fees and services, they prior to when I came here, we had bank fees and auditing fees combined, and I separated that out just to make it a little clearer as to what you're actually paying for your accounting, your audit fees and your bank fees. And, the goal is to continue to bring those down. What else did I say? Okay, other than that, I've pretty much stayed the same. You may see you'll see a decrease there for contract service fees. That's because we allocated that to IT, just because it's more an IT expense. I did increase travel and seminar expense, mostly because we like to attend the Munis conferences, and this year it's in Texas, and both Jill and Darlene would also benefit by the offerings that they have. So that's why those fees are bumped up. And the other seminar expenses, that may be higher than the past because of, since I'm a CPA, I'm required to get 40 hours a year, 80 every 2 years of education related to accounting.
Furthering education is good.
Yeah.
Exactly. We want that.
Any questions? All right.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Josie.
Excellent job, Josie.
Thank
Keep
you.
up the good work.
She's
Good
a
job.
good team member.
And we're going to move over to Mr. Little, actually, and you will handle the manager's budget, and then, well, not finance. Managers, the mayor and council departments.
Just 5 minutes, Tim.
You gotta be 5 minutes.
Oh, you got that.
I'm watching.
Sorry, you already have.
Okay,
I'm not sorry.
under,
You can't use it
okay, under expenses on page, first page of the budget under expenses, which is page 9. Just the highlights on the handout sheet that I gave to you. Your salaries have basically stayed the same. They're under the borough code, $3,000 apiece. The mayor gets $4,500. That's $25,500. Now, one of the questions that council raised at last week's budget hearing is about expanding the part-time employees. I have the same number in there for $72,000, which is what we budgeted. And if you could look at the budget, we went over a little bit over that. If you look on your monthly budget report, which is okay, because I think it's money well spent. And my question there, you can see I have a question mark on that. Does council want to expand it? How much do they want to expand it? Right now, is indicated on there, each elected official gets 3 people. We've expanded that 2 years ago from 1. And how does council want to expand that if
I would
if
say
at all?
that at least go to maybe try and get 5 per person, Tim. No, it's not it. I took Sharon's. Give it back to her. I don't know what the rest of council thinks, but Mr. Adams told us how wonderful it worked out, and it's a huge cost savings and a great
we did last
benefit to the residents. So, I mean, I think that we at least try to get 1 or 2 more per person if we can. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to be able to get them, but certainly you have the availability.
Now, Mr. Little, did we have 24 employees last year?
Yes.
And could you get us maybe, I know you don't have to do it now, but get us a breakdown of where they all were? Because I know not all of them were in Public Works. There were some that were here. I know the tax office just mentioned
Tax
one.
office had some,
We have-
accounting.
Well, I can tell you that off the top of my head. We had one in the tax office, we had one in my office, we had Emily up in engineering, and we had,
Parks and Rec had one, I think.
we had 4, I'm missing somebody who was.
Parks and
front
Rec
desk.
just had one,
Finance.
didn't they?
Or Josie?
Finance and Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. had-
That's right, Parks and Rec, that's right. Abby was in Parks and Rec.
So there's 5 non-Public
Right,
Works
so there was
employees.
5, everybody else was in Public Works. So we had 19, and that's not counting the OVR people that we had, which we had, I believe we had 8 OVR summer employees. And we don't have to pay for that, that's paid by the Department of Labor through the state. So we had 19 on Public Works.
Do we have to say we want you to budget for at least 4 per person and hope we get that many? Because I know if I only get 1, I give my other 3 to anybody else that can, that might have more than their picks, so that we try and employ as many of these young people as we can.
Right, I think the next question would be, speaking to the people that were supervising these workers, could they,
Mr. Adams already told us he could, and he's
but could they
the lion's
find,
share.
but they could find 16 more positions. I don't know where the tipping point is where,
Where there's no work.
exactly, where there's no
I'm
work
saying
or where there's no
you
supervision.
budget it, and then we see how many applications we get in. But if we don't have it in the budget, we can't put them
True.
on, even if we need them.
Right.
So,
So council?
And then you're
Thoughts?
asking for the proviso of also the department heads to pitch in to give an assessment.
for the,
of-
yes,
Because supervision, I think, is probably the
Supervision.
biggest thing.
I
absolutely.
couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot this past year.
Yeah, we want to make sure they're,
They were having a real hard time being supervised, just not enough people to go around to watch what the young folks are doing. That was one of the main problems. that
Okay, I
saw.
didn't hear about that, but, okay, that's good to know,
No, I didn't hear that.
It was a little bit of a.
In the field.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you fix that, but. it's
Well,
just-
Tim, you could probably bring that up at a Monday morning meeting, couldn't you, with department heads and stuff, and see how everybody
it's a great
feels?
idea. Let's
Sure.
do that, and then
Let's
Tim,
do
if you
that
get back,
kind
and
of-
then,
we'll-
and then
we
we'll
can
dial
talk
in that
about it
number
again
from there.
For Tuesday,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion.
every now and then.
Okay, the next line item there on traveling expenses, I lowered that and just included that in the conference, mostly for the ALOM conference, which is up at Seven Springs. So that's why that traveling expense was lowered. That's basically if you have any mileage or anything, but mostly everything, the bulk of everything on seminars expenses when council goes to the ALOM conference. So that's why I lowered that in there. Dues and memberships, basically, lowered that, kept that the same. That's for all the, for the COG, for the Boroughs Association. Office supplies the same. Food for the beverages and everything, that's the same. And now, the last thing here is this number of $29,500 for gift grants and memorials. That is for the fireworks, the bulk of that. And in the last 2 years, the Conventions Visitors Bureau has given their $10,000 donation directly to the Independence Committee. So that number is going to be reduced. That $29,500, I have it as $14,500 in my report to you, and so we're going to reduce that by that amount. Okay. Any questions on mayor and council budget?
No, sir.
Okay, on manager. For 3 people under the wages and salaries, $247,000 approximately. That's just basically the salaries of employees. There's been a budgeted for across the board just a slight increase. The next line item is that's going to be, there's $20,000 in the budget, but I have in my report to you that's going to be lowered to $10,000. And that's an oversight on my part. That should be $10,000. And that is because we have a floater secretary, which we hired, in Michelle Deutsch, who we hired. She is going to be taking Michelle Fenwick's position, and that they were just awarded those jobs. She'll be taking Michelle Fenwick's position under the union contract, and Derek, who is out at the front desk, is going to be taking Pat Barley's position in the beginning of the year, because both of those, Pat Barley and Michelle Fenwick, are going to be retiring. So we are going to be hiring a new front desk person, but we have a problem on we haven't had a problem since we've hired Michelle Deutsch. It's worked out really well, but we have had a problem in the past with somebody is off and we have no coverage at the front desk, and it turns into a problem, especially with the new modules we have with the cashier system. Darlene and Pat, they have to sit at their desk in their office. They can't cover at the front desk. So if somebody is off. Now, with that being said, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and hire somebody on a part-time basis January the 1st. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is see how things work out, and then I'm going to move from there. But I do need that $10,000 budgeted. As everybody knows, the right-to-know requests have ebbed off tremendously. All right, so there hasn't been that much work there, but we still need that floater position in there. Because we have had problems in the past with that, and if we don't have it, it could end up with union contract items. I'm not saying it will, but it could. Any questions on that? Okay, stenographic services, that has been removed. I decided to remove that from my budget and put it under legal, because that's Sharon's salary. I've decided to put that under general legal services, where it should be as legal and stenographic services. So I've taken that out of my budget and put it under there. We have about $6,000 worth of work with general code, which has been languishing because it's just a time element involved. I talked to the gentleman when I was at the ICMA convention about it, and he's going to contact me, and we're going to try to get this finished up. We have virtually all of it done, and it started 4 years ago. It actually started in 2011. And we have a little bit left to do, and it's about $6,000 worth, which is still in the budget. Traveling expenses, again, I did the same thing here with respect to traveling expenses and seminars expenses as I did in council's budget. The $600 is just basically for me on mileage or parking, during a week or day if I incur anything throughout the year. $3,600 is for seminar expenses, which includes Joe Sedlak and I going to the PELRAS, the Labor Conference, and also the ICMA Conference, and also the ALOM Conference. Office equipment and repair, $2,500. If this isn't used for office and repair, will be utilized for carpet cleaning. We need to start getting some of these carpets cleaned because they're starting to fray a little bit. But we did have this carpet cleaned on here last year, and we did not have it upstairs. In fact, that's one thing that's probably going to have to be looked at capital down the road, is this building will be 20 years old in about a year and a half, so it's starting to show some wear in some different items, and the carpet is part of that. So, but at least they should get cleaned if we don't, and I don't anticipate any kind of major office equipment or repair, but if that's not used for that, it's going to be used for carpet cleaning. Dues and memberships, $300 increase, basically just for memberships in the Pennsylvania Municipal Managers. PELRAS, which is a great organization to belong to with respect to contract negotiations, and also the American Planning Association. Office supplies, $2,500 increase in there was this year because a lot of the shredding we did. Talking about the summer help we had upstairs, Maddie, the intern we had, Dara, my secretary, and I, she did a tremendous job, as did everybody on the top floor, with getting rid of and purging a lot of documents that we didn't need, and council passed that under resolution. That's why the shredding costs were increased right there. Reduced the magazines and books, $200. Food, increased that. That's for the Christmas lunch we have, and also for the Joe Sedlak cleanup day. Office furniture and equipment, $1,500, reduced $500. That was for chairs that Dara and I, we got this year, so we're not going to get that next year, so I reduced that. Any questions on that?
Mr.
Yes, sir.
We were getting different chairs. What happened to those?
That's still in the process.
Okay.
The reason why we haven't is because Dara has emailed all of council. We do not have, we only have 3 council members who said go ahead with it so far.
Oops. Sorry.
Well, I don't know if, if the majority of council wants to move ahead with it, then
Chairs.
fine.
He said chairs for us.
We've, twice, a month ago, Dara's emailed
okay in the
council.
chair.
She's gotten 3 affirmative responses on that.
I did answer.
Who's, I answered?
Yeah, well, I know it was like.
She actually,
answered?
Dara did, she did a phone poll on that.
I know.
How about if she emails us?
JJ, it was you.
Yeah, answer yes, so proceed.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I don't know who, I'll have to talk to Dara tomorrow who responded.
Talk to Derek tomorrow, and you can
Yeah.
poll council at that point.
There we go. Just was
Okay.
a question, yep.
Okay, moving over to general legal services. Legal and stenographic services, obviously that's increased, as I mentioned. Sharon's salary will be underneath there. Legal retaining fees, that's for our outstanding solicitor sitting here this evening, and outside legal services, which is that is basically for outside legal services, which could be for Campbell Durant Beatty, and even moving forward with other contract negotiations, because we're in the process of negotiating the police contract right now, but next year we have 2 contracts, Public Works and Refuse, and also clerical, if we need any outside legal costs. That's where that $20,000 may have to be bumped up depending on how things go. Any questions on that?
No, sir.
Okay, last thing is interest and transfer. You have in your budget, and that's one of the next to the last pages on the interest and transfer, which is on page 105 in your budget. There's $200,000 that I budgeted for the transfer, and basically what that is the normal $1 million we transfer to capital, which the majority of that goes for roads, and the other is for the pollution control and flood reduction. And that's basically going to be on the that's also on the revenue side, because that's going to be brought back in once we bill and we get money for that. It'll be brought back in, as we've discussed under the meetings we've had with the MS4 project. But if you look at my handout I have in here, I have a transfer of $2,575,029. Now, the reason why that $2 million is not the approximately 2.5, I put in my budget message that I gave to council when I presented the budget in October, $1 million to put into roads alone. Does council want to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if that's the case, then the other $575,000 is going to have to be budgeted to transfer. That'll come out of the fund balance, which will decrease the fund balance that, we can afford it, or else I wouldn't have put that $1 million in there. But I think roads is a paramount, issue in this municipality like all the other municipalities in the state and even in the country. I think we have to keep up on these roads like we did this year. We're going to spend $1.9 million this year. I think we can't go back to spending just $500,000. I believe we got to start spending at least $1 million a year on these roads until we get them up to snuff.
Yes.
Everybody's in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Counsel?
Okay. That concludes my budget report, unless anybody else has any questions.
Council, any questions for Mr. Little?
Sir.
Excellent job. Very good. Council, any other questions in general about the budget? We do have our work session for December. That would be December 6th would be our next work session. And then possible action could be taken at the December 11th regular council meeting. However, if we needed more time, we can always schedule extra meetings after that date if we had to up until December 31st. So we have some more information that we will be receiving here over the next few weeks.
What we could do, if I could just make a suggestion to the mayor and council, is that there's some, not major changes, but more so with police department and IT, which, to make a comment on that, as Tina Mueller gave her presentation last week, there's $40-some thousand budgeted for outside contracted services. That money can just be transferred out of the IT, because somebody did ask, well, why, I think it was you, Linda, asked why is that in IT if it would be for the police?
Right.
We can just transfer that into the police for the IT person that you are advocating to do.
Okay, so
That's
that's-
part, now, that's not going to be.
that's part of it, isn't it?
That's
Yeah,
not
let's
going to
start
cover
there.
it all,
That's a start.
but it's going to, that's
Make
a
a
start.
chunk of it.
But anyways, if these adjustments have to be made, we could present those to you, meaning me and Josie, basically, Josie and I, and at the work session in December.
Correct.
All right?
With the
And if-
updates of everything that we've talked about.
Right, and in the meantime, if there's anything else that council thinks about, call me, you can call Josie, let us know, and then we can present this and briefly go over this at the work session. Now, if you don't have to pass the budget, as the mayor just said, it has to be passed by December 31st. If for some reason you want to make changes and it isn't ready for the December council meeting, I mean, you could set up a special meeting just to pass the budget. Those are your options.
Correct.
Thank you.
And residents, they can contact their council members or my office, Mr. Little, if you have any questions or concerns about the budget. Unfortunately, right now, our email servers have been down for the past few days, so if by chance you do email something here, or if you have in the past few days, and you haven't received a response, we haven't received that email yet, but we will. So please don't think that your council person or administration is not responding to you. So I'm going to close the budget hearing at this point. We do have a public comment section of the budget hearing. However, I'm going to roll that right into our Citizens Night meeting. So at that point, when I open up the floor for citizen comment, feel free to ask questions about the budget if you would like to, but you would also have an opportunity to speak about any municipal item at that time. So we're going to move over. We are closing the budget hearing, and we are moving over to our Citizens Night meeting for this evening, November 8th. And we will start with we will open the floor up for residents' concerns or questions, comments. If anyone has signed in, if you have not signed in.
Are other people going in first?
Is there a list there in front of you?
Yes.
If you could.
Do you want this?
If you could, that'd be great.
Just the top one.
Just the top one, please.
Danny, come up so you can get out.
Are you signed on that one as well? Dr. Beckham? If you could grab that one,
That's
that'd be
good
great
enough.
too.
That's good enough.
Oh,
Well, I
does
think,
anybody sign on there?
I think we have two sign-in
Yeah,
sheets.
I think those
lot
are
of people
people that
chatting.
were here.
We got it.
There you go. Let's
Bob
start
Kerr,
everyone.
please. Mr. Kerr, thank you for your patience. And if you wouldn't stand off to this one
Okay.
podium, you just state your name for the record and that you are a Monroeville resident. You do not have to state your address. You can just say that you are a Monroeville resident.
Okay.
And also one more thing, I'm sorry. We try to keep it to a 5-minute time limit for public comment. So the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, my name is Bob Kerr. I'm a 68-year resident of Monroeville, and I lived for the last 30 years on Abers Creek Road.
Welcome.
And I'd like to chat briefly tonight about Abers Creek Road, which I'm not sure if you've all been on this road, but it's a little 0.8 of a mile road from Northern Pike down to Cabot Road. It's a windy, it's beautiful, beautiful road. I love living down there. So I'd like to chat about what happened recently.
And
Joe,
there's a little X on tape if you want to place it right on top of the X, and our
Okay.
camera will pick it up.
I took some photos. Maybe Joe can.
Yeah, Mr. Kerr, just so you know, we are well aware of that area where it got washed out on Abers Creek.
Okay.
So what happened over the past few months, the Public Works Department did patch a lot of the potholes along Abers Creek, and then it was seal coated. The state, I believe it was PennDOT, redid the bridge on Abers Creek.
Correct.
Yes.
And then, yes, we had a rain event where that was flooded out.
Right.
We have applied for an emergency application permit through the DEP. Am I saying that correctly, Mr.
Not an
Hughes?
emergency permit, it was a general permit through the Allegheny Conservation District.
Okay. And have we heard back from that yet?
No.
Okay. And that is specifically to repair the section of road that
It's a
Mr. Kerr
stream
is
bank stabilization is what the permit is for.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's in that one section where it has washed out?
That's correct.
Okay.
This is all news to me.
That's
I was
fine.
not aware
No
of
problem.
it, so thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Okay. But there's, you can see, this is where it washed out. You notice there's the stream down below here, and the stream comes straight into the bank and then turns left, and of course that force of the water takes care of the hillside. Now, I've lived down there for 30 years and lived here all my life, and used to fish down there and everything. I'm surprised this hasn't washed out a long time ago. It's been going a long time, okay? Because you can see you got the stream, then there's a cliff, and then a road, another cliff. It's
Bad place for a road.
It's a bad place for the road.
Now,
Okay.
Mr. Hughes, is there already a plan in place for what to do and how to handle it?
Yes,
Okay. Would there be any redirecting of the stream?
not with this project. That's a totally different animal. To get into the stream and redirect it and remove sandbars and basically put the stream back to its somewhat of its original state, it's a pretty major permit to do that. That is not part of this. This is just to stabilize the embankment, get the road back open.
Okay.
Yeah, that's, I guess this leads into what I want to
Sure,
to
yeah, please.
chat about more, okay? This is another photo. I guess it's not going to be good. This is more of a upright, but if you, this is what's been done. There's put stop signs on both sides and barriers, knocking it down to one lane, which is great. That worked real well. And I put this up because it's, to me, I'm not sure what the stream bank stabilization amount's going to be done, Paul, but this whole length from here to here is, it's just a matter of time till it goes to, okay?
Yeah, it's about 100 foot of repair that's going to be done.
Okay. Will there be posts put in and,
No, the stream bank will be stabilized with riprap.
okay, so it's just a matter of time till it goes again then?
Not necessarily. I mean,
Okay,
it's a
we'll get to that.
pretty strong, what's that?
I'll get to that, because there's other spots in the road doing the same thing. Okay, and anyways, this is another photo of, off in the distance is Northern Pike, okay, we're looking north here. And this telephone pole used to be over here, okay? And that wasn't when I first lived down there. So it's over here now because this bank slid in too. Here we got the same thing, cliff, road, cliff down to the stream that's impinging right on this. It's the same thing. Just a matter of time. It's till it goes to the road's a mess. Let's face it. It's been a mess for the longest time. I love living down there, but it can be tough. Okay, so good. So we can move ahead now. It looks like okay. So the repair. It's not a repair. It's a stream bank stabilization, and it's coming out of what the Public Works Fund. I could take it right, Paul.
It'll be taken out of the capital improvements funds.
Capital improvement? Okay.
Yes.
Well, okay.
Yeah, we are actively pursuing this, and
Okay.
we want to get that
Great.
over as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay. I know it'll break your heart, but the road will be closed for a while.
It was closed 2 months this summer for the bridge
And it's going to be closed again next summer because the bridge in front of my house is supposed to be repaired also. I know they didn't tell you guys, they didn't give any warning about it at all, but
Yeah, it's great.
There probably won't next year either, but the one in front of my house is supposed to be overhauled also. It's another 2 months. Okay, all right, as we mentioned, this road predates Monroeville. It was poorly designed. Actually, it was never really designed, and it's particularly in the areas of drainage. There's very little drainage control there at all. That area where this slide occurred is, the guys in Public Works used to joke, it's a war zone. It's just terrible. It just falls apart every winter from freeze-thaw cycles associated with ponding of the water on the road. It's in terrible shape. Okay, and so the road gets paved or tarred and chipped about every 2 years or so, and with pothole maintenance in the meantime. And there's other places, like I mentioned, where the road's sagging or slumping, not just at the slide point where it occurred. Okay, so anyways, this road is, first off, the lightly used road, and it's very lightly used by Monroeville residents and we are paying for this road, okay? There's only 7 of us who live on the road, plus the Sai Baba temple, okay? And there's some other use by people who live down on Cabot Road and Backers Lane and maybe some Alpine Village residents, but in general, it's not used a lot by Monroeville residents. It's mostly used by people from Westmoreland County and Penn Township who use it as a shortcut to get from Saunders Station Bridge over to the Parkway or someplace else in Monroeville or whatever. The large majority of that is from the traffic is from Westmoreland County. Tim pointed out to me appropriately that, hey, look, we maintain our roads and for use of the Westmoreland County people, and Westmoreland County people maintain their roads for us. But at any cost, does it matter what it costs? I think it should. It should matter a lot. And if we were somehow to be able to evaluate the dollar expenditure on the road for maintaining Avers Creek Road divided by the number of uses by residents, it must be one of the highest in Monroeville, okay, because of all these things that we're seeing. So I guess I'd like to discuss, is there a process in place by which we evaluate when we've spent enough? Is this road going to be maintained irrespective of cost? Is there a process in place by which we discuss that?
Well, every road gets evaluated every year, and that's how we dictate what roads are tended to and which ones aren't. I think it'd be very difficult to determine which cars are non-residents versus ones that are.
Actually, it's pretty easy down there.
Well, no, I would disagree with you. I think a lot of Park Forest residents use that. I think a lot of Foxwood Plan. I think a fair amount do, actually, if they're going,
years ago, eastward. When I got a little bit perturbed about speeders down there, because the road used to be paved, and it was like a Monroeville 500 down there. We did a little brief study of how many cars come from Saunders Station Road into from Westmoreland County. And make.
How do you know they're coming from Westmoreland County?
Well, they came across the Turtle Creek Bridge. Turtle Creek. There's no place else they can come from.
Yeah, I come across that bridge.
Okay, so, and you live in?
No, I didn't live there.
Oh, I come across it too. But I mean, okay, it's just statistically, the morning and the rush hour. We have rush hour in the morning and in the evening. Okay, and if you're out there during those time frames, you'll see that the majority of cars are coming through Avers Creek Road on the way home, out Cabot Road to Saunders Station and making a left going into Westmoreland County, Penn Township. A lot of development out there. In the last 10, 15 years, there's been a lot of development out there.
Public road.
Well, I have the same problem with Old Ramsey. It's exactly the same. People cut up Old Ramsey to get into Monroeville.
Yeah, they're allowed to.
Eliminate that whole corner. So that road has the exact same situation you're describing as Saunders.
Well, but we have a creek next to it that
well, isn't
washes.
there a creek down? And we have half that road shut down. Mm-hmm. So it's not just on that road. And I think the MS4 will help with a lot of these issues over time.
What's MS4? I'm sorry.
our storm.
Mr. Rodriguez, do you want to give a brief explanation, please?
Of MS4.
Yeah, brief.
That's okay. I'll talk to Paul.
Well, we understand where you're coming from. I think it'd be a challenge to tease apart exactly what you're trying to say. What we have put a fair amount of money into it this year. I think we did a good job.
It looks beautiful now.
Improving it until that washout, but we're on top of that, and we are going to correct that as quickly as possible. And I think we just have a duty to keep all of our roads up to snuff, and it's very hard to dictate residential versus non-residential.
I disagree. I think in general, Avers Creek Road can be
But I don't know what your
monitored very
solution would
easily.
be. Would it be? I mean, I don't know how you would.
We can't restrict
Where do you
it.
go from there? You can't
No,
control. You
we
can't
cannot
shut it down.
restrict them.
You can't restrict it. You can't.
It's already, well, it's a Monroeville public street. It's not a Pennsylvania or a county.
It's not a private road.
What are you
Right.
asking to be done, if I can just kind of get
Well,
clarification?
my question is there a process in place where we evaluate, if, for example, if we had to repair the bridge, which to the couple $1 million just spent this past year and a couple more million extra, would we spend that money to keep that road open for the number of residents that use it?
Well, we'd have to
I
keep
would
the
hope
road
not.
Open. Well, we'd have to keep the road open for our residents.
You could do it. You could, Bob, you could do a traffic study, there's no question about it, where you would have a counter at the Turtle Creek Bridge, and then you would have, during the peak rush hours, which is between, I forget, 6 and 8 or 7 and 9,
Whatever, yeah.
and 4 and 6, as you do in conventional traffic studies. You can do that, and you could at least plus or minus 3%, 4% error, whatever the case might be. You could do a study like that, but getting a little bit above that, 10,000 feet above that, it's also a policy issue, which I think council is trying to express. Let's say that 1 out of 100 cars is Monroeville residents. Okay, let's just use that as a base. Then you have a policy decision for this elected body to say, okay, we're going to close down Avers Creek Road because a lot of Monroeville residents do not use it. Is that sound policy, is my question, a rhetorical question. Is that sound policy to do? I don't think it is, because as I told you in an email, I think, hey, we're kind of all in this together with respect to the eastern part of the Pittsburgh area. People come through. Keep in mind, too, people are leaving work, not just coming. They are keeping congestion. Those types of roads are keeping congestion off of arterial roads, all right? One of the worst transportation planning ideas that ever came up after post-World War II was the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac has made more traffic congestion. I wouldn't say more. We have more cars. That's what's really created it. But because in conventional towns, people don't go off on a side road and traffic disperses. So doing what you're talking about, to a small extent, albeit, would say, okay, I can't use Avers Creek Road, so I'm going to stay on 22. So you're going to have how many cars that use Avers Creek Road are going to stay on 22, so you create more congestion on 22.
It's
so there's
lightly
a pro
used.
and a con to this.
Yeah, I hear you. It's lightly
Let me
used anyway.
ask you this one. Last winter, I believe there was a reason why Saunders Station was shut down, and the emergency vehicles had to use Avers Creek Road to get to the bottom of Saunders Station. What are you going to do then?
Well, that's the only way to get there. They go through Alpine Village if nothing else. Or, I guess I think this is kind of a moot point. I'm hearing that no matter what it costs, we're going to fix those roads.
And Bob, your point, your point is well taken too, because you have Ramsey.
Yeah.
You have where I live near McClure Road. That's shifting a little bit. Cabot coming down.
Sure, there's lots of them around.
So you do have a lot of problems like this in Monroeville. And yes, this is a financial decision as we move along here for this council, unquestionably.
And I think it's also a public safety issue. If we close one end of the road, that does restrict access to emergency vehicles as well.
As well as the residents that are there. I mean, there's only 2 or 3 families on Old Ramsey, but there's only one way in and out as well if you close one of them off.
Well, one way is...
What, better than none? But
Yes.
still, okay, but...
I mean, Paul says that this road's closed on a regular basis.
Yeah.
we got 2 months for the ridge, and maybe a couple more months for this thing. It's going to be closed. We have one way in and one way out. So,
And I guess we haven't gotten to the point financially where we've maybe considered what you're saying.
okay,
So maybe that's the question you're asking. Yeah, I mean, if the number got so high, or there probably is a tipping point. You're probably right. There probably is a tipping point where
Well, okay,
that decision's made, but we're not at that
question.
point.
What is the process by which we evaluate that? Do you gentlemen and ladies and do that or does Paul do it? Or
They do every year we get a
for every road?
update on every
Yes.
single
Every road
road.
is driven,
Every single
every road is
in the whole-
evaluated.
The status of each one.
Yes.
And the
They're all
assessment
given
and a
It's assigned
rating
and a
applied to
rating
each
and,
one.
yes,
Okay.
every year.
Which is used for the process to help
I'd
road
li-
repair.
Could I
decisions.
guess that's public record, right? I can
Absolutely.
view that?
Yes.
Is it on our website?
I don't think so.
The paving,
Pacer rating.
The Pacer.
It's called a PACER rating.
yeah, the paving,
Pacer.
what we end up,
PACER.
PA.
P-A-S,
An acronym.
P-A-S-E-R,
I
Pacer.
thought it was PAC. Is it PAS?
PASCR?
It's arguable how it's
PASER.
spelled.
Well, he
But at any
wants to
rate,
look it
it's a
up.
public
He wants to
record.
look
We
it
can get that for you, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to see it. Maybe, could I get it from Tim or Paul? Or
Yeah,
I'll get it to you, Paul.
yeah.
all right, thanks, Paul. You have my email address,
I
right?
do.
Okay.
Okay. I hope that helps.
Well, listen,
We understand-
agree to
we understand
disagree.
your concerns.
I look at the amount of going into this road, it's incredible. As a resident, I want it open, okay? But as a taxpayer, I mean, good Lord, there's a lot of money for the few people. I still say there's only a few residents that use it. It's a lot of people from Westmoreland County.
I was on it today.
Were you?
My
3
wife
hours
uses
ago.
it every morning going to work to Indiana, every single morning.
Coming from
Here in
Sauter
our office,
Station.
Sauter Station Road.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very good.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Dennis Spritz, please.
Good evening. I was here 2 months ago. My name's Dennis Spritz. I'm a Monroeville resident.
Welcome.
I was here 2 months ago about a concern about,
Sir, can you move over to?
In front of that
I
microphone,
sure
please.
can.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you, Dennis.
I was clean shaven before this started.
We recognize, yeah,
I was here 2 months ago to register a complaint
about the dumpsters.
Absolutely. Mr. Councilman Duncan said you would take care of the problem. You took care of the problem. I'm here to publicly thank you people for taking care of the problem. My neighbor, Jim Smith, was unable to attend the meeting tonight. He also wants to extend his appreciation for what you've done. So that's all I have to say.
Wow.
Well, Mr.
thank you
Spritz,
for
we
sticking
thank
around.
you for sticking
Thank you.
around, just to
Thank
give
you.
that thank you.
We appreciate it.
Want to wish you all happy, healthy, and a blessed holiday.
Same to you,
Good
sir.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
And we have one more person signed in, Eliza Beck. I think she left, so we'll move on to our next board.
Elizabeth has left the building.
Yes.
You're fine.
I was loitering outside.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
So first, I want to go back to the budget meeting, which I didn't know was happening tonight. So I was wondering, last year, I guess it was at this time, I asked about budget for a sustainability coordinator, and I'm wondering if that was put in the budget, because no, I have not read it at the library yet. Mr. Little?
No, I did not put it in, no.
Okay, so I'm going to suggest maybe it's now going to be called a regenerative future coordinator, because we don't want it to be just sustainable anymore. We don't want the road to fall back down. We want it to be so good that it's permeable and it's part of the ecosystem. And so I'm going to propose maybe for the budget that you're already putting in, that maybe it can be part of the MS4, that there's a person that you put in there that will work with stormwater management in a really extra regenerative way. So I just wanted to put that plug in. Because I remember last year at this time you asked me to go, look stuff up. That's not my job. I believe it's your job, Mr. Little. You get paid. I don't for this. So I'm going to ask you respectively, and maybe the board, to really look into that and figure out how to weave it into this budget, because I think it's time for that, especially based on what the last gentleman just said. So, okay, so now I'm going to close out that budget meeting thing, and I'm going to go on to what I came here for tonight. And because the time is late, I have a lot of thank yous for a lot of reasons based on what's been going on in the region over the past week or so, but I'm going to save that to the end of my time if I'm given just 5 minutes. I did make a note that the last person just spoke for 15.
You're right. I did not set I thought I hit my stopwatch here. and I
Okay, so I'm
failed
just
to,
making note of that, but I'm going to leave out the really cool stuff I was going to say to kind of set everybody's minds at ease about our regenerative future that I'm really excited about. You want to give me an extra few minutes, I'll go into that to leave us on a nice note. Because I have some real serious things to bring up tonight. And I feel in the name of transparency, it's really important that it come out publicly. I found out this information about a month ago. I've been talking to a lot of different people. I've been trying to do my own research before I came out with it publicly. And the first time I spoke of it publicly was yesterday at the Allegheny County Health Department meeting downtown. I want to just reiterate, and I know that you all have heard me so much. My name is Alyssa Beck. I don't even think I said, or I guess they called me. But I'm really interested in the precautionary principle. It's all about our human health and the health of future generations. So I don't really mean to be up here as a thorn in everybody's side. I'm trying to just help all of us as we move into our future. We've asked over and over again, Mr. Ratcher, Mr. Gressack, Dr. Gressack, Mr. Little, all of you, to put rules, specific rules in place regarding fracking and related infrastructure. I have the questions over and over again. So a couple of weeks ago, a few of us went to a Huntley and Huntley meeting with Huntley and Huntley Exploration, who met with 20 residents who live extremely close to the Gaia pad in Penn Township. This is a hydrofracturing fracking pad where 9 wells from a specific one pad will be drilled. The construction began this week. This pad is, and I'm going to put the map right here that Mr. Little prepared. I'll ask that you put it up on the screen. And please leave it there for a minute so we can know what we're talking about here.
Joe,
In the very middle.
Zoom in just a little bit, Joe. If you could zoom in a little bit, that'd be great.
In the very middle of where all of the pins are, in the very center here, is where we are right now. That's the Monroeville. This is really a visual perceptual activity. That's the Monroeville Municipal Building. And so the Gaia well pad is right over here. It's one of those 2 pins. So it's about 9 miles from where we're sitting, but I don't know where all you live. I know Mr. Ratcher lives near where the Draculic well is to be drilled. We live about 5 miles from the Gaia well pad. And again, construction began this week on that with 1 well. So Huntley and Huntley called a meeting with 20 residents who live extremely close to the Gaia pad in Penn Township, gave them 24-hour emergency phone numbers just in case anything should happen around there. We know recently in the news a house blew up related to gas infrastructure. I don't even know where that was in Pennsylvania, but these kinds of things are happening. We live in a pretty densely populated area relative to where this kind of development has been happening up to this point. So Monroeville's kind of on the edge of something that's different than has been happening before. I'm getting a little nervous, to be quite frank, because I was invited to this meeting, not by Huntley and Huntley, but I was invited there, and I saw some unbelievable things. Huntley and Huntley called it a private meeting. I didn't want to sign in. They almost didn't let me come to the meeting. And then somebody came over to me who is a very well-spoken person at Huntley and Huntley and asked why I wouldn't want to sign in for this meeting, and they wouldn't let us take photos. They did not take questions publicly. They broke people up into groups. There were some pretty hysterical people there. They put out large maps as large as this desk, and they showed people where their homes were compared to where they were drilling. Again, this is about 5 miles from where I live, and I know, based on the Environmental Health Project, that when you are within 5 miles of where one well pad is being drilled, This is, again, 9 pads, 1 pad, 9 wells are to be drilled here. There are air pollution and water pollution concerns. So the question, what I know now, I know also, I may be jumping around a little bit here. Okay, I know that construction began this week. I know that there are different phases in the construction of a drill site. The second phase will begin in about 30 to 60 to 90 days, depending on weather. This is very concerning to me. There is something called green completions. We don't have control over what goes on outside of Allegheny County. This is not Allegheny County, it's Westmoreland County. But just keep that in mind, green completions. Okay, so I'm going to put that aside for just a minute. What I know now, this is the first public statement that I'm making about this, that hydraulic fracturing or fracking drill filings have been dumped in the Monroeville landfill since 2009. Were any of you aware of that? Any of you here?
I don't think anybody keeps track of exactly what's dumped there shy of hazmat material.
Shy of hazmat, so that's really important, Mr. Harvey. Because Marcellus shale waste, it has to do with the gas industry, and there's something called the Halliburton loophole that was passed when Dick Cheney was vice president with President Bush. The gas industry is not held to the same standards as other, like the coal industry, for example. So we have had Marcellus shale waste dumped at the Thomas Street site, which is about, as the crow flies, maybe 2.5 miles from where we live. And I have a list here, I'll show it to you, from the reports that went to the PADEP. Waste details for the reporting period, July 2009 to 10, drill cuttings in tons, 104,496 gallons. It goes on, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14. In 2017, they started putting in produced fluid in barrels. 18,480 gallons. Okay.
Dr. Beck, would you be able to, at the end, give us a copy of that?
Absolutely. I have a few things to give you copies of. So this is what I know now. When I first learned this information, as you can imagine, because I founded Sustainable Monroeville in 2009, as you can imagine, I've been coming here. I'm really concerned for all of you men and women here, and myself, and our future generations. When I found out this information, it's waste management. It's not just our landfill, it's the Valley landfill, it's a lot of waste management landfills, and other places all around us here. I was really not very happy for about a day. I didn't even want to come here and say these things, because I thought, this can't be true. This has got to be, like, how could I not know this? How can we not know what's coming into our community? What I see now, so that was what I know now. What I see now, 7 of us were invited and went to the Monroeville landfill to take a tour a couple of weeks ago. There is a pile of slag. First of all, it's the most beautiful property in Monroeville. It's beautiful. If you've never been there, you ought to take a tour. You can see Pittsburgh. Have you ever been there? Have any of you ever taken the tour?
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's magnificent. I took a lot of photographs. It was stunning. I was like, wow, this is Monroeville? This should be a park. This should be a natural site. Well, you can't plant trees on the top, because if you plant trees, then the roots will go down into Mother Earth, which at this point is a big pile of trash, and it will break up. They showed us the infrastructure that'll break up that infrastructure, so you can't plant trees. What I see now, what I saw was a pile of slag that they explained to us gets combined with this fluid, this produced fluid. We don't really know what that means. We haven't had a chance to do research, but it has something to do with Marcellus shale waste, and it's going to a landfill called Thomas Street Waste Management. It goes in with all the other household waste, business waste, industrial waste. There's no special space for this waste. Okay, I'm going to put that aside for a minute, and I'm going to read an example of what other communities and areas have done to protect our health. There is something called, it has to do with green completion. These are new vocabulary words for me. I'm going to say them over and over again just so we can maybe get it into our MS4 stormwater management stuff, because this is serious. It's going to be coming into Monroeville out of that landfill. Because I don't care what you put in between waste and the next layer of earth, eventually it's coming through. So there's something called closed loop, and there's a company called Anadarko, which is drilling extensively on state forest land in Pennsylvania. They decided in 2015 to convert all its Marcellus operations into closed loop systems, eliminating pits and collecting debris in steel containers that are carted to landfills. It's my understanding, and please somebody prove me wrong, that's not happening in our landfill. It also receives state permission to dig up the buried cuttings, and these cuttings are exactly what's been going into our landfill. In my view, I think, somebody tell me that I'm wrong, they've been digging these up from about a dozen wells it had already drilled. Quote from Anadarko, "We want to say we haven't buried anything here," said Steve Wolfel, Anadarko's drilling operations manager in Appalachia. Continued quote, "It always could be a risk. It could come back to you," unquote. Anadarko says the closed loop system is part of a broader, quote, no-spill strategy aimed at keeping all materials contained during the drilling process. Said Scott Chesebro, Anadarko's engineering manager for Appalachian operations, "Nothing we bring to the surface touches the ground." So that's called green completion, where they gather this stuff and they put it somewhere else, so maybe for a few more years it's not going to go into our water, into our air. Green completions also capture hydrocarbons and VOCs. That stands for volatile organic compounds during flowback. I'm real concerned about this. Is this happening 5 miles from what I'm breathing? Just a few miles from Ramsey Elementary School? I don't know. Is it the responsibility of our elected officials and our mayor and our municipal manager to find out answers to these questions? I would hope so.
Well, Dr. Beck, if you could get to, I don't know about council, but this is news to me what you're telling us. Do you have any suggestions of action items that we could do? I don't know if we're able to regulate what goes on at the landfill, but I think that's something we need to look at, if there's something that we can do there. Some of the suggestions you're making about this green completions with these companies, I don't know if there's anything in our power that we could do.
Huntley and Huntley is right next door. I know that some of you, at least, have been in conversation with them about a variety of things, because they're
only
right.
what they. I mean, we've only spoken to them publicly.
Well, I guess one question I have is, have they spoken to anybody here about what infrastructure they're going to be putting in Monroeville related to that, such as compressor stations, pipelines, anything?
There's nothing going on.
Nothing has been.
Okay, so we learned when we went to the landfill, and we already knew that the land underneath the landfill has been sold for fracking rights. We were assured by the landfill folks, by Waste Management, they're not going to drill through the landfill. However, when I asked the question, well, are you going to put a well right next to the landfill where the shooting range is, or the fire station? I don't know what's right there, but there's
training center. It's not going there either.
Well, somewhere near there's a lot of property. I walked up to the map that they have there and I said, well, what if you put something right here and then you drill down? Are you going to drill underneath the landfill? And they said that was proprietary. So they did not say no, is my point here. Are we monitoring? I was at a meeting at the Allegheny County Health Department yesterday where I mentioned some of this information publicly. Their Allegheny County Health Department does have some kind of monitors. What monitors are in Monroeville? What air monitors? These are specific questions. Council, mayor, municipal manager.
Did you ask Allegheny County?
Pardon?
Did you ask Allegheny County?
I ask, but they don't say anything back. You just ask, and then they mail you a letter. Hopefully, they'll mail me a letter. They were the ones that told me that this Sadot well that's in Plum was not an unconventional well. I learned later the Sadat well, which is 7 miles from Monroeville, is where the plum injection well was approved. So 7 miles from here, there's going to be lots of fracking fluid going underneath the earth around here. So if we're worried about 1 or 2 or 3 roads that are going down into the stream, it's going to be real interesting to see what's going on 2 years from now. I'm just really curious. I'm hoping that it's not affecting the ecosystem, but I know that it is. I'm hoping in this 2019 budget, the MS4, that you're going to include water monitoring, you're going to include air monitoring, because you want pre-testing before this stuff happens. Because if you don't have pre-testing, you don't have a leg to stand on. Because they can just say, oh, this is Pittsburgh, this is oil, this is undermined, this has nothing to do with us. I'll ask each of you to read the book Amity and Prosperity by Eliza Griswold that just came out this year, and just see what kinds of questions you all need to be asking our neighboring municipalities, because we may not have any control over it, but we share the same air and the same water.
And Dr.
So I
Beck-
want to leave this on a positive note, because I know that I probably am taking close to whatever the last man did.
I afforded you the same time. So if you could.
Thank you. So what can we do? This is going to all seem totally unrelated, but right now, I don't care. One thing is, go to sustainablemonroeville.blogspot.com and just read what's up there. Go to the Facebook page. I did a masterful post on the Facebook page of Sustainable Monroeville while the police chief was talking. Don't tell him. Are you listening, Mr. Cole? Go to the Shale and Public Health Conference. Maybe you can just put the camera on this. Are you guys still there?
Yep.
Now you can zoom back out so you can see the whole thing. No.
Too far.
Zoom back out.
If you could just tell us the
The
dates.
Shale and Public Health Conference
Where is it and when is
sponsored
it?
by the League of Women Voters. It's at the University of Pittsburgh University Club. It's Wednesday, November 14th from 9 to 5. It behooves us right now to go there and learn everything we can about what's going on related to shale and public health.
And Dr. Beck, that will be on your Sustainable Monroeville blog spot as well, that conference information?
I just posted it, like, while I was sitting here
Okay,
tonight.
perfect. So
Yes.
folks can look there if they didn't catch it.
Yes. Look at the work. Join Protect PT, Citizens of Monroeville. They are protecting our air and water. It's $10 a year. They need our memberships. And I'm going to leave it at that. The fun part I'll do another time, or I'll post it on the blog spot. The last thing I'm going to leave council with is that we need to uphold Pennsylvania's Environmental Rights Amendment, which is, I've talked about it before here, I read it here, Article 1, Section 27, that we have a right to clean air and fresh water. So I'll not impose on you, but I'll give you the petition, and if you feel like signing it, great. If you don't, give it to your next door neighbor, or you can sign it online. So thank you.
Thank you. It's good information. And yes, if you had that information about the landfill, or if you get a copy, please, that'd be great. I'm going to leave the floor open for Citizens Night. This is your time to speak about any municipal item. You to sign in and state your name for the record, please.
David Mintz, Monroeville resident. I just want to add real quick, this will just take a minute. On the drive over here tonight, it just happened to be, I turned on the financial show that's on NPR between 6:30 and 7, and they happened to be talking about fracking in England and the exploration and the amount of money that's being spent right now exploring to see if it's gonna be worth doing the fracking there. But they keep stopping. At least the part of the story I heard, they were it seemed like because of the concern of earthquakes, and this is something obviously just so that people know. I thought it was interesting that in England the restrictions on the allowable level on the Richter scale for earthquakes being caused by fracking were, at least in the story, they were saying something like 1,000 times more restrictive than they are in the United States. So they were stopping the process when they were causing much more, like 0.5 on the Richter scale, something like that. Obviously, I just wanted to pass that along since we're always talking about that issue. It's just that because that injection well fracking process itself, but especially the fracking well, the injection well in Plum is not far from us. And just put it out there, if we ever have any community, if we're ever communicating with Plum's council or working with, as we do with Wilkins and Churchill and other things like that, just so as much information as we have, it's good to know that we can talk about. That's also an issue that obviously has not happened far from here in Youngstown, Ohio. That's been well documented. So just another issue in addition to what we've spoken about is there's always that potential as it lubricates it's fracturing the faults in the land underneath. It's just that they were taking it much more seriously with the regulations in England than we are here. And I know that's not a local level regulation. I understand.
Yeah, that's got to go up the chain.
Right, sure, I understand that. But just so that we're all aware of something like that. Sure.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank
you.
And I'll leave the floor open for comment on any municipal item. Seeing none, we're going to close that portion of the meeting, and we're going to move over to our agenda-setting meeting. I have an executive session announcement. Council conducted an executive session for personnel and litigation reasons before the budget hearing of November 1st from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. and prior to tonight's budget hearing and Citizens Night beginning at 6 p.m. until 6:30 p.m. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the November 13th council meeting. We have, council, in front of you are the minutes for the Citizens Night meeting of October 4th, 2018, the council work session of October 4th, 2018, the regular council meeting of October 9th, 2018. Any additions or questions, council?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Seeing none, move over to our reports of our tax collections. Any questions or comments, council?
Nothing.
No, sir.
List of bills. Any questions or concerns, council?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Seeing none, and the payroll and budget transfers. Likewise, any questions or comments, council?
Nothing, sir.
No, sir.
We will be dealing with our vacancies of boards and commissions on Tuesday. Moving over to our new business, we have an application 18-7-ST Dentistry for Kids. Mr. Little.
Okay, for the sake of brevity, we'll have the applicant come up here, and this is a site plan approval for 11,044 commercial building site, associated site amenities. Property is located at parcel 856N294. It's near the intersection of Monroeville Boulevard and Ivanhoe Drive in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Sir, if you could just introduce yourself and state your name for the record, and there's probably a sheet there you could just sign your name to. Perfect.
I'm Bob Smith. I'm the civil engineer for the project. Guess I'll wait for it to come up here. The building is a single story, primarily medical. Half of it will be dentistry for kids. The owner, developer, is looking at leasing the other half, possibly for dermatology. It'll probably be a medical building. Currently, right now, they're actually pricing. They've sent drawings out for preliminary pricing.
I need to slide that over towards you for 1 second, just so we can get the whole thing.
Oh, sorry.
Where's exactly is this located?
It's right beside the surgery center, the
Yeah,
AHN
right.
Surgery Center
Okay, there's.
in Ivanhoe Drive. There's the image right there, Mrs.
So
Gatos.
basically right there, right on the side of the road.
There's that vacant lot that's been vacant forever.
It's a vacant lot on Monroeville Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
Right here.
Right there.
Absolutely. Mr. Smith, go on.
Okay. I'll just show the site plan real briefly. We have received comments from the engineer, traffic engineer, stormwater, planning comments from Mr. Wilden. We responded. This is actually a little bit of an older plan, but we've already we have an updated plan which actually provided 5 copies to Mr. Wilden a few days ago. Basically, we're handling stormwater on site with a pond. We've received comments from MS Consultants. We responded. I think we provided a revised stormwater plan a couple days ago, maybe yesterday. Their comments didn't affect the design. We'll be able to manage the stormwater on site. We have the minimum number of parking spots. We're ADA compliant. We have a dumpster in the loading zone. And there are a few stormwater items that we're still working on, such as the stormwater maintenance agreements, things like that. There is a private stormwater pipe that goes underneath the site, and I just received a comment from Paul today. we want to take a look at that pipe, make sure it's in good working order so that there's no repairs needed to it prior to beginning the work in the parking lot. I know they've done some geotechnical work just recently. I saw an email come out today. I think they're looking at, the report's not coming out till next week, but they might be looking at doing some over excavation just for some piles.
On your
and things
drawing,
like
could
that.
you point to a couple landmarks I'm trying to get my bearings on where that is?
Between Ivanhoe Drive and Old Monroeville. It's a property used to be
Which
owned by
is where
Johnson's.
there's a
Never
surgery
mind,
center
I
there
know.
now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Between
there, Mr.
surgery
Rhodes?
center.
Yes.
I went old school. I went old time.
No, as soon as that picture went up,
Exactly where
I,
you meant when you said Monroeville, I know where we were.
That's why I can translate.
It's actually the flat lot. It's not where the trees are. There's a flat lot to the left of the trees there.
That's correct.
And there's also a slope that comes down from the surgery center that levels off to your site
It's up
as well.
about, yep, they're a little bit higher than us.
Okay, very good.
And we are pursuing an HOP through the county, an NPDES permit for construction, and there's one other permit we're pursuing.
are you going to enter and exit off Monroeville Boulevard?
Yes, correct. Oh, and that's the other thing. We did receive comments from the county, and based on the size of the development, there's no traffic study that's needed. It's relatively small office buildings, small number of dentists, I believe 19, but
Are they gonna be allowed to go left out of there?
That's up
Might as
to,
well ask, because Mr. Wilson will.
that's typically up to the county because they own the road.
Mr. Wilson, are you saying yes, they're allowing that from that
I believe it's
location?
proposed as full access.
correct.
Oh, the other
And
Across two
we're-
lanes of traffic.
Yes.
Correct. It'll be exactly like Ivanhoe Drive does right now.
But that
the
has a
other ones
light.
have lights.
That has a
coming out of
light
Monroeville,
at it.
Anything else?
You can
Except
come out of the Italian grocery store and make a left. You can come out of the,
Well, I guess you can, that's true, without having to go through the light, okay.
They
Okay.
counted the trips, and it basically was under the
Okay.
threshold for a study,
All right, well,
so.
Mr. Wilson was gonna ask, so better just to get it out now, he's always wanting
Oh,
to know
we
about
are,
the
and we
left.
have actually begun the process of the HOP application with the county. And I have spoken with the person there at the county, and initially, when she looked at this, she didn't have any concerns about receiving that permit.
So if we approve, this would all be based upon getting all of these approvals and permits and all the comments answered and taken care of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And speaking of the turning, if you're coming down, I guess we're heading eastward. If you're heading eastward down Monroeville Boulevard, making a left onto the site, I can't picture on going into the surgery center if there is there a turning lane or any kind of chalked area? That's a
No.
double line. People turn left into the surgery center?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a double line there?
Yeah, that's definitely turn left.
And that'll continue downward. There's not going to be any kind of pork chop or anything, or whatever they're referred to as? Okay. Okay. Council, any other questions for Mr. Smith?
No,
This
sir.
time, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I won't give the score of the Steeler game,
Oh.
in case anyone's taping.
Everyone's, yeah.
Oh, I'm getting updates, so.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Don't tell anybody. But yeah, we will consider this on Tuesday.
Only left.
Thank you
Back
for
Tuesday.
Yes, and thank you for your
Yes.
patience this evening.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Long
you.
night.
Thank you.
24/7 Pittsburgh.
And we're moving over to our second item
was
of
an
new
interception
business.
even.
We have 18-3-ST Joseph M. Knapp. Mr. Little, please.
Yeah, applicant is requesting a site plan approval to construct 55,606 square feet of warehouse building and associated site amenities. The property is located as Lot 1 in the Moya Industrial Park and identified as parcel 741D42H in the M1 Planning Industrial Zoning District. The Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Is this an empty lot currently?
It currently is, yes.
Where?
And do you have a
I have,
explanation for council?
applicant is not here. I have a site plan if you'd like me to show it.
That'd be great, please, if you could. Mr. Wilden?
No.
This is back in the industrial park.
It's actually on Old Frankstown.
Right.
Dexter Road. Okay. Frankstown.
This is Old Frankstown. Hanlon Electric is up in this area.
If you go past the municipal garage and over the hill. it's
Correct.
There to the left.
It's on the left. Right now, it's just a wooded hillside. They want to cut a little notch in there, put a small building.
You can see it from Public Works. You can look across the valley and see it.
So this is gonna be a new building?
Yes.
Okay.
It also sits above Edgemead.
No.
It's higher than
That's what I mean.
Edgemead.
It sits
Yeah,
above.
Yes.
Okay.
elevation-wise. It's a very small project. It's been through planning commission. They've answered a number of questions. Everything seems to be on track. Don't foresee any problems with the project.
You have no issues then?
No.
This is for commercial use?
Yes, it's JMK Concrete. You may have seen some of his trucks around. He has a shop, I believe, in Plum Borough. He's just looking to make something bigger. It's just for him and his employees. He's not storing any materials there, mostly just for his equipment.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
None.
Thank you, Mr. Wielden. We're going to move over to our resolutions. We have 5 this evening. Mr. Little, please.
Okay, the first one is a resolution authorizing the opening and maintaining of an account at Huntington National Bank for the pollution control and flood reduction fee. We passed a motion on this. However, Huntington needs an actual document resolution. So, any questions on that from council?
No.
Okay, resolution number 2, authorizing the execution of the Green Light Go program grant reimbursement agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the Monroeville Boulevard and Wingate Drive traffic signal replacement project. Discuss this, and council should be well aware of this. This is the first of a Green Light Go for 2019. Any questions?
Nope.
No, sir. Next.
Okay, resolution adopting the Beasley Plan of Lots Sewage Planning Module. Finally going to get around to that. Okay, I was just going to say, the chief should be here for this. A resolution, number 4, is a resolution authorizing the Municipality of Monroeville and the Turtle Creek Valley Council of Governments to enter into a memorandum of understanding to be active participants in the active shooter training for police. Doug, you want to expound on this just briefly?
He's taking his time.
Briefly.
Yeah, otherwise we're going to have to take a break.
It's through the Turtle Creek COG. We're doing joint law enforcement training, and that's just a kind of a, I guess, an administrative thing that we need to do just to make sure as we train. The COG was able to purchase some weapons that are simunition. Just actually today was the last day of training for the instructors. There was a 4-day class for the 6 or 8 instructors, of which Monroeville provided 2. Basically what it is if we have to have our officers while they're on duty, we call it training detail, and they get sent to do this training, and they'll train other officers. That's all basically what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, resolution number 5 is resolution declaring support for the design and construction of a proposed Pennsylvania Turnpike interchange located between exits of 57 and 67 on the Turnpike in the vicinity of State Route 130 in Penn Township. I've mentioned this to council over the last few months, and some dialogue has been created among you. I didn't know, get a definitive answer if this would be something beneficial for Monroeville or not. Any discussion, or leave it on the agenda? How does council want to proceed?
Leave it on the
Leave
agenda.
it on the agenda, but I think this may plays into what Mr. Kerr was saying earlier. I mean, I think this perhaps might be something that would reduce some traffic in those areas and some of these other roads. But let's talk about this more
On Tuesday.
on Tuesday.
Okay. Okay, and that's it for resolutions.
Moving over to our ordinances, we have one ordinance this evening. Mr. Ratcher, if you would, please.
We have an ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville repealing ordinance numbers 2464, 2480, and 2550, and setting forth the requirements for obtaining occupancy permits prior to the transfer of 1- and 2-family dwelling units, establishing inspection requirements for multifamily dwellings, establishing procedures for obtaining occupancy permits, and setting fees for said permits. And I will defer to Mr. Hugus on the description of this proposed ordinance.
This is a program we've had since 2010. This is just a housekeeping issue because we're referencing newer building codes, newer property maintenance codes. That's all it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, council?
None.
Very good. We're going to move over to our reports of municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher, you have the floor if you would like to continue.
No report tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Little, you mentioned to me you do have some items, but you were going to hold that until Tuesday.
Yeah, they can wait till Tuesday.
Do you have anything else you want to mention this evening?
No, that's all.
Okay. Mr. Hugus.
No, sir.
Ms. Rock.
Nothing.
And we'll move over to our council members. Mrs. Gatos, anything for this evening?
I have to do it very quickly just because of the dates. Tuesday, the 13th, soup day at the senior center. It's wedding soup, so that's always a good thing. And the pizza sales is going on, $6 a dozen. You have to place your orders by the 21st, and pickup will be December 7th. So please get your orders in for pizzas.
Meeting's finished.
You'll be happy come the holiday time when you have a gift to give. That's the end. Okay, Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you, Mrs. Gatos. Mr. Poach.
Nothing this evening, sir.
And Mr. Harvey.
Three sad things. I wanted to express my sincere condolences to the families and victims in Pittsburgh, the police officers, and the Jewish community in general. I can't believe how close I was to that whole thing without knowing what was going on. Me and my wife were leaving for out of state and just cleared the Squirrel Hole tunnels. And all these emergency vehicles were coming up the other way, and the stupid question came out of my mouth. I didn't see an accident, did you? And that was just the natural response that you thought they were going to, and it was this. And incredible. I also want to express my prayers to the victims of, if you didn't see the news, the shootings in Thousand Oaks, California. They shot 13, killed 13 people, and a police officer. And finally, I told Mr. Duncan, and I didn't have a chance to see him because I was out of state, and his condolences for the loss and his family member, and that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. And yes, certainly terrible events in the news recently, and these levels of hate are not welcome in our community or in America. And I don't know where we go from here, but I will share your condolences to those victims and all those involved. With that, I'm going to close the meeting, and we'll continue on Tuesday for our regular council meeting. Thank you and good night.